Thank you very much. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm not holding a handheld mic. I'm so used to that. So now suddenly I double the gesticulation ability. So if I gesticulate too much, just say, slow it down, because I seem to get carried away with my hands. So thank you very much for sticking out for Monday. I know everybody's got to go back to the slave grind, to the grindstone, right? Go back to the slavery. Yeah, and retire. So thank you very much for holding out and for sharing this space and this opportunity to share some very important philosophy. And I must tell you that it's becoming more and more difficult for me to talk about the ancient stuff, although I still do it and I enjoy it because it still, gives me great joy to realize we're cracking the codes of the ancient civilizations and we figuring out what was going on and we starting to understand the entrapment and enslavement and the secrecy and all that stuff. But in fact, it's all completely immaterial. It doesn't really matter. It's what we do for the future for ourselves that really matters. And this is why this is from now on, I probably won't be talking much about the ancient civilizations. And slowly but surely it's moving, well, rapidly it's moving towards focusing on the future and what we're going to do as humanity to create a beautiful planet for ourselves, a planet of abundance, a planet of unity and harmony, and over and above a peaceful planet in which all of us are united as one, because that's what it's all about. The separation and conflict is just unbearable. I can't take it anymore, and I'm sure very few people can take it anymore. Yeah. We all know that there's something dramatically wrong with the picture, so let's not lose that perspective, that something is dramatically wrong and we're the ones that can do something about it. We are the ones that are the seeds of consciousness that chose to be here to share this knowledge and information and to take this forth. So just remind you a little bit about what we discussed yesterday and the last few days. Try and connect the dots from the ancient past, learn from it, and then put it to good use and practice here. So I promise I'm not going to spend 3 hours showing you slides and talking at you. I'm just going to take you through about 45 minutes of stuff to lay the foundation for this, and then we can have an open debate about this new utopian society. And I use the word utopian purposely because it seems to have become a dirty word. Oh, you're just talking about utopian situation or utopian world. Yes, I am. And there's nothing wrong with the word utopian. It's a word that we should be striving towards. It's something all of us should have access to. We should live on a utopian planet. It's not a dirty word. It's a good word, and we should use it all the time. Utopian, utopian. And if, I don't believe in this thing, getting people together and say after me, and then give you a chance to do all that. I don't buy into that at all, because I believe we're all connected to the same source. We know what we should be doing. This has gone dead. And it's yeah. This is yeah, it's better. So I see. I'll use the handheld once again. You see, I'm meant to use a handheld. So I don't know. Where was I? What was I saying? I was ranting and raving. Utopia, yeah. You get into the zone and you get on a track and then you get taken off the track. I forgot what I was saying. It's gone. So, yeah. Yeah. So, what did we learn from all this? We learned a lot of important stuff. We learned incredible stuff, but it's the stuff that now we need to convert into powerful tools and powerful information to put us on this path to utopia. So what we have discovered, and we need to deal with this, because only when you deal with this can we do something about it. We can't keep circumventing this and making excuses and say, oh, but I don't really want to talk about it. Yeah, we have to figure this out, because only once you've internalized this and you go, okay, we're enslaved on this planet. It's critical information, this. Then we can take the next step. It's like a deep therapy session, right? We're enslaved on this planet. Let's deal with this. And what's fascinating is that Hollywood plays a very important role in spreading this information. I don't want to get sidetracked, but Hollywood has been established as like a balancing tool. What's happening there is, I believe, part of keeping the prime directive in place. And it might not make sense to some, so let me just quickly explain what I mean by this. From a higher perspective, from looking down from a much higher field at humanity, sharing information with people, whether it's direct information or subliminal information, it doesn't matter. From a higher perspective, it's information, sharing information, whether it's subconscious or conscious, they're still giving us the information. So whoever they are, whoever this group of beings or the cabal or the Illuminati, whatever label you want to put on these group of beings that seem to be really dramatically and drastically trying to curtail the freedom of humanity, they know that they cannot breach the prime directive. They understand that very, very clearly. And so from their perspective, I believe Hollywood is being used. And Jordan Maxwell, by the way, agrees with me completely on this. I had a 5-hour-long discussion with Jordan about this, who explained to me in great detail how Hollywood is managed and run, and how the movies are encoded with this deep subliminal information. While they're giving you very obvious direct information and messages, there's a very deeply encoded, in all the blockbuster movies, that's why they're called blockbusters, because they bust the block of our enslavement and our unconsciousness. That's, blockbusters. Otherwise think about, well, where does that word come from? Blockbuster movie. Hollywood, Hollywood, the name was very carefully chosen because they cast a spell. The movies, the Hollywood is created to cast a spell. Hollywood is the wood used by wizards from a holly tree with which they could cast spells. And so it's all deeply Kabbalistic thrown together that it's complete. And this is where some movies have been allowed to share this information, deeply encoded with subliminal information. And so we've learned that we're imprisoned on our own planet. I shared with you yesterday, there's several these grids, the energy grids around planet Earth, and that the ancient temples have got nothing to do with worshipping and offering food and kissing butt and all that stuff, and trying to escape the smiting, because there seemed to be a lot of smiting going on in ancient times, and I just love that. It's like this smiting thing. It's like, okay, let's get over it, understand what it's all about. And I'm going to show you some better ones, and realize that these ancient temples are just giant energy devices that have been keeping this energy grid of our enslavement around planet Earth. And this enslavement is on several levels. It's a physical, it's an emotional, it's a mental and a spiritual enslavement. We have now escaped this enslavement because we've bust the block of this entrapment. And yet, some of the Hollywood movies have been great examples of sharing this information with us and telling us. And I was trying to find that opening scene of the movie that I spoke about yesterday. It's called Hackers, and just go find it and you'll see once again they tell us in the opening 3 minutes of that movie, as he's looking out of the airplane and flying over the city, suddenly the city turns into a circuit board, and you go, oh my God, it's so obvious what's going on here. And the ancient temples, as I'm showing you in these pictures, are so obvious of this enslavement grid that we find ourselves in. And then we get to the movies that start giving us this information. So what I'm doing here is I'm just preparing the ground for us to get to the action we are already taking, not that we're going to take. We're already doing it. You're already doing it because you're here. Somehow in your subconscious, in your actions, many people have started doing this. Many movements around the world. I know this from the thousands of emails that Louise and I get at the Ubuntu movement. How many movements there are around the world doing this. But we've been compartmentalized. We've been divided and segregated. So we don't know that we're doing it because the mainstream media and the system that's been imposed on us does not allow people that are doing good things to communicate. So just realize this. Don't think you're alone in this. If you're doing amazing things in your community, if you're growing gardens or creating community projects or whatever, you're not the only one. You're one of millions of people around the world that's doing it. Don't feel alone. Know that you're part of a very rapidly rising movement of consciousness around the world. Do not for 1 second think you're alone in this. This movement is probably much, much larger than we dare to imagine. But we don't know about it. And this is what we need to start doing. Crossing those bridges, those divisions that have been imposed on us. And that's a very exciting thing. We know this
from the Ubuntu movement because of the thousands of emails we're getting. So then we get to the movies, the Hollywood movies. And I think there is probably no better movie than The Matrix that explains this. And it is just spectacular how this information was given to us on a platter. When did that come out? 1998, 97, around there, right? It's a long time ago already. And only now we're starting to really understand what the hell it was telling us about this enslavement and about the hidden truths. And here Morpheus explains the trap. And I just love this. This is your last chance. And this is really what many people are referring to about the separation or the segregation, even in the Bible, in the book of Revelations. And many people believe that we're getting to that stage where there'll be a separation, like a frequency separation, and the unwashed will go somewhere in a different timeline, and the conscious will go down a different, its own timeline. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I know that it's being spoken about in great detail by many people. So I can't claim to be an expert on it, but we're aware of it. If I told you I know for sure, then I'll be lying. So I'm aware of it, but I sort of resonate with the fact that a frequency separation needs to take place. Otherwise, there's just chaos. It's just utter chaos. And I hope that there's a frequency separation, because I don't want to do this for very much longer. I'm tired myself, you know. I hope people must wake up and realize what's going on. So this is your last chance, Morpheus says. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and you believe whatever you want to believe. I just love that. And oh, you take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I will show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And that's what we're doing. We're discovering the depth of the rabbit hole and realizing that there is no bottom to it. It's a bloody bottomless pit. And so this is how the Morpheus describes the slave system. The Matrix is a system, Neo. And remember that Neo is an anagram for one. You are the one, right? He was the one, Neo, the Savior. And it's referring to you, each and every one of you. You are the one. So it's telling us that the Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system. And that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. And that situation still prevails. This is one of the most spectacular demonstrations of how poisoned our minds have become. How poisoned we have become. Independently, divided, separated, in fear of each other, instead of uniting to cooperate towards the greater benefit of humanity. And then some of the Matrix statements go on. The Matrix is everywhere. It's all around us. Even now, in this very room, you can see it when you look out the window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, or when you pay your taxes, especially then. It is the word, the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. And Morpheus says, what truth? That you are a slave, Neo, like everyone else. You were born into bondage, into a prison that you cannot taste or see or touch. A prison for your mind. This is just ridiculous. I mean, whoever wrote this stuff is so connected. And it's right there in a blockbuster movie. So I hope it's now busting the block that you may still have had. Hopefully none of you have got this block anymore. And that you're going to be sharing this. So just to point out, the Matrix, Neo equals one. You are the one. We are the one. We're the ones we've been waiting for. And it's actually prophecy. This is prophesied. And what I can tell you, and 5 years ago, I would not even dare say this. Today, I believe more in prophecy than ever before. And I know this because of what happened with the Ubuntu movement and the elections in South Africa. If that was not prophecy, I can tell you, nothing will ever convince me more that prophecy, we are living out the prophecies. We are the living evidence of prophecy around us every step of the way. It's quite spectacular. So, once again, we ask, what have we learned from this? And we need to recognize what is really going around us, what's going around us in our immediate environment, what's going around us in our countries, our planet, and then in the space around us. And this is critical information because remember, hopefully from all the stuff that you've learned this weekend or that you already learned or that you've already known, you've just reconfirmed this, is that everything is connected. The compartmentalization of information is the trap. You know, in ancient times, science, philosophy, astronomy, medicine was all one study. And then later on, it was broken up into compartmentalized bits of information because that's how you separate and segregate people. And I think David Icke was one of the first people that started sharing that information with us, was the pyramid scheme and the compartmentalization of information on every one of these pyramid hierarchical levels. And this is what we're still suffering from. So just keep reminding yourself, if you feel alone, if you feel down or suicidal or desperate or whatever, and I go through that often. If you experience that, just know that it's part of the trap. Don't let it get you down. And I don't know if I mentioned this in one of my other presentations the other day. I recently went like through a 2-day bummer, real downer, and I was like, how can I do this? I mean, I know all this stuff. How can I let myself be so down and depressed now? And I reminded myself that somewhere along the line I heard that, you know, the muscles in your face, when you smile, create a certain hormonal and endocrine secretion that make you feel good. And if you frown and you feel down, there's different hormonal secretions that happen. So I thought, well, let me try this out. And I forced myself to smile. And as I smiled, within seconds, I could feel my entire body chemistry change. And I was out of it like that in a few seconds. It was spectacular. So I'm just reminding you, next time you feel that horrible down, just push your mouth up, you know, smile, and it's almost like an instant thing. Or the other thing that works for me is chilies. You know, just take a raw chili and bite into it. Makes you forget everything else. And I've done that quite often. I really, because Louise and I are crazy about chilies. We eat chili with everything. So we chop chilies up, and I've got 20 different chilies growing in our garden, and we always eat chili with everything. And in America, when you ask for chili, you get chili con carne, you know, you don't get chopped chilies. No, we mean real chilies, fresh chilies. So what do we learn from this? The physical thing around us is, this is a real fact. We have moved into the cycle of ancient prophecy, into the post-2012 period. We now live in the new age, where this is it. The old age is gone. We're in the new age. We're in 2014. We're 2 bloody years behind after 2012 already. So we're starting to get thick into the new age prophecy of the people we've been waiting for. So what the consequence of that is very obvious. Ask the geneticists around us. Children are being born with 3-stranded DNA. It's like, what's going on here? You know, more and more of our DNA is being activated. This is allowing us to wake up. That 98% of the junk DNA, or whatever percentage it may be, that's where all the good stuff sits. And that's what we are now tapping into. So very rapidly, this awakening moment, this awakening around the world is taking place, and we are starting to realize the true serious consequences of this awakening, because we've taken the red pill. I think it's the red pill, right? Yeah. Maybe I took the blue pill. I don't know. But we're starting to realize that we're born on a prison planet. But we are told the opposite. We're told that you're free. You're free to do what you want. Which, you know, is the biggest BS that anyone can tell you. Because we're not. From the moment you're born, the first breath you take, to the very last breath you breathe out before you kick the bucket, you're a slave. We're all slaves. And if you think you can escape this by going living on a ranch somewhere or living in the Amazon jungle, you're still fooling yourself. You're still part of the slave system. Sooner or later, a large corporation that's sponsored by the Green Party is going to arrive in the jungle in the Amazon and start chopping down the trees that you're living in. And you're going to have absolutely no power to stop them. If you think that you can get away from the system, you're dreaming. The only way we're going to get away from the system is by changing the system, not opposing it, creating a new alternative. So this is what this is really all about. This is not about opposing the existing system, because that's just creating more conflict and explosive energy. We've had enough of that for thousands of years. We got to learn from this and create, simply sidestep this barrage on humanity, onslaught on humanity, sidestep it and create an alternative system. And it's happening so quickly, I can tell you, it's blowing my mind. I did not expect this to be happening so quickly, but I'm now witnessing it on a daily basis. From the moment you wake up, from the moment you're born, you realize that you cannot move around freely. We cannot live where we choose to. We need passports and work permits. 500 years ago, you could get in a boat and sail to some foreign land and arrive there, and if the locals allowed you, you could live there, set up camp and become part of. Today, try and do that. Get on a boat and sail to another country. You'll probably be blown up by some missile coming from space because you're a terrorist. They found some aerosol canisters on your yacht, and dangerous weapons. Or a bottle of water. Oh my God, don't let them find a bottle of water on your yacht, right? So we have to follow these rules and laws that we did not agree to. How many of you agreed at birth to the rules and the laws that are imposed on you today? Nobody. None of us agreed to those laws. So we have to work to survive, and we have to earn this thing called money. And we're the only species on this planet. Clearly, that has to earn money. So clearly, the moment you try and reconcile that with the rest of the activity on this planet, you realize that, hold on, we are completely at odds with everything else going on around us, that we have to earn money while everything else is just operating completely normally and naturally, and we come in and impose ourselves with this thing called money, that we're the ones at dis-ease, in disharmony, in dissonance with everything around us. And money seems to be the tool that is used to do that. We have to pay taxes to escape jail time, and if you don't, sooner or later you'll be caught. If you try and escape to your farm or your ranch or somewhere, sooner or later the men in black in a black SUV will come knocking on your door and say, Mr. Tillinger, you're 15 years outstanding taxes, and they'll track you down. So this is the trap. People out there that still think they've got free will, they can do what they want in La La Land. They don't understand how things work. So this is clearly not freedom. It's actually far removed from freedom. What is this thing called? It's what Morpheus tells us. It is a slave system. Slavery. That's what this is. So just to remind you that slavery has been a nasty, horrible thing until very, very recently. I've just put together a few pictures just to remind you what slavery is all about. And each and every one of us is actually one of these individuals in these pictures. We are nothing less or nothing more. We are absolute slaves, equivalent to what the emotions that you get when you look at these photographs. That's what has happened to humanity. This is how disgusting and bizarre our behavior has been over the last several hundred years. Abusing living, breathing human beings, stealing their lives, stealing their souls, and exposing them to brutality that only the most evil minds could come up with. Stuff like this that just sends shivers up your spine, that we could be capable of such atrocities. Slavery in its ugliest form. And if we think we've escaped this physical, brutal form of slavery because we can live in our own homes and so forth, think again. Because the whips and chains have been simply replaced by money. This thing called money are the whips and the chains that keep torturing humanity, keeping us in a prison that we cannot escape. At this stage, there is no escape until we do something about it. Modern slavery is a huge global problem. It is not something of the past. It continues. And we are all part of that system, whether we like it or not. We are all enslaved by money, And let me remind you that none are more enslaved than those who believe they are free. Wolfgang Goethe. Today, our slave, the slave tools have become brands, corporations, and careers. Because this is what we all strive for. This is what we believe is normal. And here's Wolfgang Goethe, the famous Austrian philosopher and poet and writer. None are more enslaved than those who believe they are free. And I think the United States was set up as that model for it. I think it's a great example of that. You know, think about that. For 100 years, this American patriotism has been shoved down everybody's throats, especially if you live outside of the United States. You know, it's like, United States, the world's greatest country in the world. This is where we the best freedom, the highest level of freedom and all this. And you look at it from the outside, you go, and the perception is being given to everyone around the world that everybody wants to, or actually, let me rephrase this. The people in America or in the United States have been made to believe that everybody wants to come and live in America, right? So this is like, becomes like, oh, no, you can't. So it becomes like this crazy, insane, reverse engineered patriotism that wants to keep everything for the American people and exclude everyone else. Well, that's spectacular because, you know, you ask most people outside the world, so do you want to go and live in America? They said, not on your life. I don't want to go there. And that's really what the reality is. But in America, a lot of people still believe that everybody wants to come and live in America. And that's the duality has been created between this very powerful nation and the rest of the world. And this is just such a huge, obvious deception. Yeah, American exceptionalism, yeah. Exactly. So the question is, here we are. It's really a disgusting situation to be in. So let's try and identify how it got so bad. How did it get so bad? And I've been through this in the other presentations. It seems to go back to the time when we get in the Sumerian texts, especially these kings lists that tell us. And it points to a very specific time in human history when the royal, which seems to be the origins of the current royal bloodlines. When we hear about these gods, probably the Anunnaki, at this stage it seems to be the Anunnaki, that appointed the first priest kings on planet Earth. And these Sumerian texts talk about the time when kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven. And these priest kings were given fierce weapons and knowledge and wizardry and technology and alchemy with which to control the beings, the rest of the human population, because they had to. And you got to ask yourself why this was the case, because otherwise they wouldn't listen. Nobody would listen to these assholes, right? I'm now your king. You'll do as I tell you. Really? I don't think so. You know, so clearly they had to have fierce weapons to control the people with, and they did. If you read your Bible in the ancient text, they had some serious, fierce weapons. I mean, when you read the story about Abraham, how Abraham moved across that Asian part of the Near East, from the east to the west, and then eventually ended up in the lower Sinai desert, and how the kings would come to him. Some of the local kings would come to him and they would be fearful of Abraham because he was God's favorite one. And he had fierce weapons with which he could smite an army of 10,000 people. 500 guys could smite an army of 10,000 people. And these kings were really, they were petrified of Abraham. So they would come to him and offer him presents and stuff because they didn't want to be attacked by 500 guys. I mean, just think about this. You know, 500 guys against 10,000. Sorry, there's no chance. Unless you got some seriously advanced weapons and technology. And that's exactly what this is all about. He was a bloody thug. He just went out, did what he wanted. And what did these first priest kings do? One of the first things they did, they realized, and in the Ringing Cedars series, there's a great example of how this happened. When they realized that they could no longer control the slaves physically because there were too many of these slaves and so few of those ruling parties that were controlling the slaves. And they came up with a great plan. They said, you're no longer slaves. You can go and live where you want to. Do what you want. And instead of me whipping you into shape and forcing you to carry these big stones for us, building all these temples, for every stone you bring me, I'm going to give you 1 coin. And this was the freedom that they gave humanity. And that's exactly what you find, that these first priest kings created money. They were the first guys that created money. Money is not a consequence of thousands of years of barter and trade. That's the lie we've been sold. And that's what all academics got taught. Historians are taught this, that money is a consequence of thousands of years of barter and trade and exchange between people. Lie, 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 lie. Please put that out of your mind, because that's what they're going to carry on shoving down your throat. And when you try and tell this to an academic or historian that has been indoctrinated with those lies, they'll keep coming back at you with those lies, because that's all they know. That is not the case. These first priest kings were the first bankers. They created the world. They were the first bankers in the world, and their temples were the first banks. Here is one of the oldest examples of money. It's in the British Museum for everyone to see. Hide it in plain sight. Millions of people walk past us every day. They got no clue that they're walking past one of the oldest forms of enslavement of humanity. The oldest form of money, these clay tablets. So let me explain to you why this is such a crookery and a thievery, how far back the current banking system goes. This is exactly the same system. Here's a guy that walks into the temple with some pieces of silver. He hands it to the banker, to the priest king in the temple, and in exchange gets a piece of clay. Think about this crookery, right? It's spectacular. That's what it is. Nothing has changed. Today, the banks work with exactly the same system. Money doesn't actually exist. And if you go, and I know this, for those of you that don't know yet, but I've been up against the banks in South Africa for the last 4 years, since 2010. In the Supreme Court of Johannesburg, at the highest level, where lawyers can't work, you have to have an advocate there. Okay, so a higher level of lawyer, like a barrister in England, they're called barristers. And here's a guy, they're truly men in black. They wear black robes. And they walk into the court and they bow to my Lord that sits on this high bench. They bow as they walk in, my Lord, my Lord. As they walk out backwards, bowing to my Lord. I'm not kidding you. When I first walked in there to try and, I knew I was going to have to go to the court to go and represent myself when I took on this challenge in November 2010. I went in there and I sat in on a few hearings because I've never been into a court in my life. And I wanted to familiarize myself with the environment, and I sat down and I started watching this ritual going down. I thought, oh my God, I'm in a bloody movie. This is insane. This is like, what's going on? This is some ritualistic cabal, dark, sinister activity going on here. And then one day we asked, why are these advocates on their robes, on the back of the robe, they've got a little bag that sort of hangs loose on the back of their robe. And we asked them, what is that bag on the back of your robe? And they said, it's called a ching bag. And we said, ching bag? What is it? Why is it called a ching bag? I went and did some research. It's called a ching bag because in ancient times, they would walk and people would throw money in there and it would go ching, ching, ching. And that's why it's called a ching bag. It's like you start learning these ridiculous bits of ancient knowledge that so everything is connected to money. Okay, so this is probably, remember that, so the banks don't work with money. When you go into the definitions of, in the South African bills of exchange and the definitions, you go into money, there is no definition for money. It keeps referring you to other definitions. No definition for money. And you realize that the banks don't work with money. It's just a nice word they have for these bills of exchange, promissory notes, and liquid negotiable instruments. That's what it is. So banks work with checks, promissory notes, bills of exchange, which are collectively called negotiable instruments. And you realize that this thing runs a lot deeper than most of us could ever imagine. So we know who these banksters are. These banking families, they connected to the bloodlines from thousands of years ago. It's not something that just happened recently. This goes back to these Sumerian texts that give us a very clear timeline as to when this began. When those first priest kings were appointed, they became the bankers. Their temples became the banks, and there you have it. In fact, the word bank comes from the Roman word banco, which is a bench, which was in the courtroom inside the temple, where these lawyers and advocates used to sit on the bench and collecting money. So it's directly connected to it. It's all in my book, Ubuntu Contributionism. I'll take you through this whole breakdown of this history and the legalese and the words that are used, so that we understand how this fraud and crime against humanity has been perpetuated without us even realizing it. So just to remind you, some people still don't understand this statement that banks make money out of thin air. It's as simple as that, people. If you're still struggling with that, put any doubt out of your mind. There is no money, okay? And the entire global economic bullshit structure that's been shoved in our face, this very complicated economic policy and all this, that's the deception, that's the lie. It's been created to look really convoluted, and the whole stock markets and this and that. Why do you think they keep putting so much emphasis on the stock markets and all that on the news? That's part of our indoctrination. They make us believe that it's so deeply intertwined with our humanness that we can't live without it. Who cares about what's going on with the gold and how the dollar versus the yen and all that? I don't give a shit about that, you know. But every day on the news, that's what they shove in your face, because they need to make sure that we believe it's really important and it's really, really complicated. Nobody really understands it apart from a few really, really well-trained and indoctrinated people on Wall Street. They don't know what's going on. Have you seen Wolf on Wall Street yet? The movie? Well, he tells you there. It's all BS. It's all a game. It's all absolute rubbish. None of that exists. It's about how much money can we make for ourselves before they realize that we're ripping them off. Yeah. So that's what this is all about. So banks make money out of thin air. There is no money. They just create it on a computer, and they can do what they want. So the often referred to statement like the Fed should be audited is a really funny scenario because it'll just show you, here's a pile of paper worth $10, and there's this fancy machine, and they put this paper through this fancy machine, and suddenly on the other side they got a pile of paper worth $30 trillion. And you go, well, what happened? So what happened? Oh, well, these are we just created treasury notes. So how did this happen? Just explain to me how this happened. $10 worth of paper, $10 trillion worth of treasury notes. What the frickin' hell just happened here? And that's pretty much what happens. So get this in your mind. If anybody still tries to convince you that, no, there's exchange and there needs to be securities and this. And I was on a radio station in Australia just recently, and there was one of the guys on the panel there was the head of the Skeptic Society in Australia. And I said, banks make money out of thin air. It's the largest organized crime syndicate in the world. And he freaked out. He said, what do you mean banks make money out of thin air? It's a complicated system. I said, yeah, that's what you believe. He said, oh no, there have to be securities and there has to be... So I said, no, that's the BS that you swallowed. Stop spewing that forth because you're just confusing everybody else around you. Go back and do some research. So we know who these banking families are. I don't have to tell you this. And these guys are behind the misery that faces us today. And we got to thank David Icke for this, because I think he was one of the first people more than 20 years ago that really started getting into this, really started exposing this and showing this absolute fraud against all of us. And the Kabbalistic rituals and the statues and the symbolism. When I was I did a tour like this of Europe in March and April of 6 countries in Europe. And when I got to Switzerland, in Zurich, like one of the capitals of the banking families, I went to look at the head offices of, Credit Suisse, and right next to it, in the sort of banking center of Zurich, right next to Credit Suisse is the UBS Bank. And at the entrance to UBS Bank, there's this image of this guy, this face coming out of the wall, very bizarre kind of statue of a guy's face, and both sides of his face are 2 caduceuses. And you go, what has a caduceus got to do with banking? On the entrance of one of the world's largest and most secretive banks. And therein lies the secret society messages. A caduceus is that medical symbol, the 2 serpents around the rod and the wings. Okay, so those symbols, that's a symbol of medicine, right? Symbol of hospitals and ambulances. And here's on the head office of UBS Bank at their front door. The main symbol, it stares you in the face, a bloody caduceus. And if you've seen the rest of my presentations, you realize that the caduceus is connected to the Sumerian texts and Enki and the manipulation of our DNA and many, many other things. But it just shows you the deeply convoluted symbolism and the control and how money plays a central role in all of this control. You cannot get away from it. And this is why we cannot fight it. We cannot fight it. We have to bypass it. Caduceus, C-A-D-U, I think it's S. Yes, thank you. Somebody please spell it. I'm really bad with spelling. So, these banking families are responsible for controlling our governments and controlling our judiciary. And this is very, very important to come to terms with. If you don't know this yet, and I should have put this presentation, I wasn't thinking about it. There's a beautiful video clip. It's on YouTube. Go find it out with Greenspan in an interview with somebody here in the United States on 60 Minutes or somewhere. And he's asked the question, what is the relationship between the Fed and the president and the presidents of the United States? And he goes, well, we've had a very good relationship with the presidents, with all the presidents. But please understand that the Fed an organ does not fall under the jurisdiction of the United States. It is a separate organ. The United States judiciary and president has no influence or say over the Fed. He tells you that it's completely autonomous. It's above the law. There's no way to get at them. Okay? And because they set it up like this in 1913, this is why we're in big, big, big trouble. Right? They have been, actually, the whole War of Independence here in the USA, and it's in my book, in the Ubuntu book, is all about freeing the people of the United States from the control of these private bankers. And many attempts by various presidents in recent last 200 years or 250 years in the USA have been to take away the power of the bankers and create a people's bank. And it's been done several times, but it didn't last very long, more like 20 years maybe at the max, if I remember correctly. And then the influence, the very powerful influence of these the Rothschild-owned banking families had such influence that they always managed to wangle away into the government, very high government levels, and overthrow the People's Bank and replace it with a privately controlled bank. And the last time this was done was in 1913. It was written into the USA Constitution, so you cannot touch them. They're above the law. The same thing with the South African Reserve Bank, Bank of England, the Reserve Bank of Australia. This is it. They control all these banks around the world. So, it's these reserve banks, these private institutions, it's like saying the Ford Motor Corporation should write the financial and economic policy for the United States. Same thing. You wanted to say something?
I mean, I would include in one breath banks and insurance companies.
Absolutely. Any corporations, banks and insurance companies, any corporation that works with money. Because remember, it's all part of the cabal. So when I say banks, I mean insurance companies, any lending company, anything like that, right? So it's all part of the banking cabal family. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. I want to get to the solutions. But it's also important to understand this, because only when you understand this, and boy, did I learn the hard way. I had to know this when I walked into that Supreme Court in Johannesburg, because without knowing this, you stand there and you are in fear, because it's a very hostile environment. When you stand there with all these men in black, and this judge that comes in, you've got no idea who the bloody hell he is. For all you know, he's an actor, has been hired to play a role because he enforces acts. Right? Yeah. And you realize that this is such a bloody, ridiculous enslavement system. So what I'm really coming at is that since these private banks control the financial and economic policies of their countries, they dictate it to our governments. Doesn't matter where you live. And our governments have to abide by it. They implement the financial policies that are dictated by these financial private banks. And they separate themselves, so you can't get back at them. You can't sue them for anything. It's not possible. They're above the law. Yeah.
See, no bankers went to jail in this last time. But when the savings and loans collapsed
Right.
So the government needs the banking community, the economic community to create prosperity, to create jobs. And in order to get the economy going again, Obama had to roll over to him, okay, nobody goes to jail, but you get the economy going again.
Yeah, so it's so understand that this is it. Our governments are controlled by the... So this is why I say they control our judiciary. And it becomes more obvious when you realize that the countries are corporations. And this is it. So when you, like in South Africa, but let me carry on here. So they control the governments, they control the judiciary. So you can never win when you go into the court in whatever country you go, because the judiciary is not there to protect the rights of living, breathing human beings. It's set up to protect the rights of the corporation. The corporation called the United States of America, or the Republic of South Africa, or England, or whatever it is. It's not there to protect your rights. You will never, ever win. You might think you win because it's a small little thing, but on a high level thing, forget it. Anything to do with finance and banking. The other important thing that they control is the education. And this is a huge thing that we need to get over, because if we continue sending our children to school in this current education system, 20 years from now, they're going to look at this video, they're going to see you sitting here, and they're going to be pretty pissed off with you, because they know that you knew that you're sending them into an indoctrination camp and a left-brain prison camp, and they're going to ask you, why did you not take me out of school? Why did you, expose me to this 12 years of enslavement and indoctrination? So what we've been promoting to the people is to recognize that the education system is just a training ground to create future workforce. It's got nothing to do with teaching skills for life. It's everything to do with obeying authority, fearing and respecting anyone in a uniform or any form of authority, and bowing down to authority and cowering down to these authoritarian people. And other important thing is that we need to change that, because if we continue sending our children in there, they're going to become one of us. 20 years from now, sitting in lectures like this and coming to weekends like this and wondering what the hell happened, right? So we got to stop that. In the United States, I believe you still have the benefit of homeschooling your children, like we have in South Africa, and that I suggest we should use as a way out. The people of Germany are screwed. They cannot take their children out of school. If they take the kids out of school, they go to jail. That's how severe it's become in Germany. And many people in Germany send their kids to school or move to Austria, because in Austria you can still homeschool your kids. So it's becoming very, very nasty out there. And what I'd like to suggest to you is start creating community learning skills center under the guise or the disguise of homeschooling. Because then you can choose what to teach your kids. You can get master teachers and experts in science and rocket building and bridge building and food growing and whatever you choose to do as that community of people who are teaching their children true skills for life. So 5 or 10 years after going through that, they'll be able to do everything. They'll be able to bake a bread, milk a cow, build a bridge, send a rocket to Mars, do whatever the hell they want to do, because you've had the best possible experts teaching them hands-on experience and not indoctrinating them to be able to regurgitate information from a textbook to get a certificate with which to go look for a job. And what do jobs do? Jobs pay money. So there you can see the trap of the very simple enslavement. You all know that money controls the wars. I don't have to spell that out. War is one of the most profitable situations for any banker. And then the very important thing is that the government and large corporations have stolen the country from its people. And they've given us these things called constitutions. And we all look at our constitution. And I don't know enough about the American Constitution, so I'll be careful what I say about it. But I know about the South African Constitution. It's not worth the paper it's written on. And we should actually print it on the toilet paper rolls to really make a point about it. Because it's called the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Why is that important? Because the Republic of South Africa is a corporation. So when I say they've stolen the country from its people, is by, once again, using legalese and slight twist of hand and twist of words, putting it down on paper, making us believe, oh, look, this is our beautiful constitution. And we in South Africa believe we have one of the most modern and most advanced constitutions in the world because it was written by Nelson Mandela. Wrong. it's not worth the paper it's written on. Our countries are corporations, every single country, every single state, every single city. In Canada, it's so obvious that you actually get the people in Toronto and wherever we did a tour of 12 cities through Canada just recently. And when you get your monthly bills, it says from the state, the state of whatever, and the corporation called Toronto, City of Toronto. It tells you it's a corporation. It's so obvious. They tell you on the bill that you receive. So check out for this. Everything has been corporatized and incorporated. And you know by now, if you don't know this yet, this is really important. The moment you sign that birth certificate on your child's birth, you have made them the property of the state. You have signed your rights away. That's why they can come and take your child away from you. They become the property of the state. It's a certificate of ownership. You've handed your child to the state. This is why suddenly this corporation called the United States or Canada or South Africa can come and take your child. They lay claim to your child. You willingly signed it away.
The license, the marriage license, makes the kids a ward of the state.
Yeah, there you go. Even more. So once you're married, it's even worse. You know, why do you need a marriage license, a marriage certificate? What the hell is that about? Why don't you just get together? So again, stop buying into this, all these little traps that have been set for us. A marriage certificate. Why do you need a priest and the state? You go to sign the certificate, the marriage register. Remember, register is regis, comes from regis. You bow down to the crown. You submit to the crown. When you sign that register, you've just submitted to the bloody queen. And she now controls your marriage and your relationship between you and your partner. Why do you need to do that? Get together, have a party, tell everybody you love each other, and live on happily ever after. You don't have to do this bullshit. Right? But we've been so indoctrinated. Yeah, exactly. And you know what?
Who's trading in our birth certificates?
Sorry?
Who is trading in our birth certificates?
All the stock markets around the world. Go and look up Duns and, what are they called? Seed and Co. Seed and Co. on the New York Stock Exchange. And it's going to send shivers up your spine what's really going on. I don't want to get sidetracked. I'm just really laying a very, very basic foundation of this. Please go away, do more research on much of these. I want to get to the good stuff. Right? Seed and Co. Or what?
Seed and Co.
Seed and Co. As in company. Seed, C-E-D-E, as in you seed something, and they it's a very and Co. as in company. Seed and Co. Yeah. And these guys, I mean, these guys do trillions of dollars a month of business, of shuffling paper, selling certificates, and our birth certificates are part of that. Yes, sir. Oh yeah. Okay. I'm just very briefly the whole incorporation thing. All of this stuff is in my book, people. So this is why I don't want to get sidetracked on this, because this becomes the whole sovereign thing, and which I don't really want to buy into, or I want to spend too much time. I've spent 4 years in the Supreme Court, Johannesburg, fighting this issue, and I realize you can't win this. But we have to be aware of it, because once you're aware of it, at least you know what to do. So, look on your driver's license, your ID documents. All your names are always spelled in capital letters, because that's the corporation. Michael Tellinger, Michael Julius Tellinger, the corporation. And this is why I write, I'm Michael of the family Tellinger. That makes me not part of the corporation. So when you get an email from me and you say Michael of the family Tellinger, don't think I'm just being weird and trying to be funny. No, it's actually there for a very specific reason. I'm claiming not to be a corporation, not to belong to the corporation called the Republic of South Africa. I'm a living, breathing human being, choosing or recognizing that I'm not a piece of paper. And I was going to use this in court at one stage, and I had this all prepared, because they try and make you, when they say, are you Michael Julius Tellinger? Say, well, where's your proof of, well, what do you mean proof? Here I am. I'm standing here. I'm Michael Julius Tellinger. I need a piece of paper to prove that here I am. So I was going to use this trick in court and say, well, if you're telling me that I'm the same as this document here that says I'm the same, can I prove to you that I'm not this or that document is not me? And I was going to take a 6-inch nail and a hammer, and I was going to say, well, if we're the same, if you drive a 6-inch nail through my heart, I'll be dead. Right? So that means if I drive a 6-inch nail through that document, I should be dead. And nail the document against the side of the court and say, well, look, the document is dead, but I'm still standing. So clearly we're not the same. But that opportunity never arose. I was really looking forward to that. But this gets to the sovereignty thing, and that becomes, once you go down that rabbit hole, I'm warning you, it'll consume your life. Don't do it. We have much more important things to focus on. So I'm just sharing. I've wasted 4 years of, well, not wasted. I spent 4 years of my life learning about that to realize that we can't win that battle. Remember, the capitalist, consumerist, banking, corporatized system has been set up and protected by the laws that were written to protect it, to consume and destroy everyone and anything that tries to topple it. That's how it works. The moment you try and topple it, it will destroy you. So don't try and do it, because you can't win. Actually, while I'm saying it, I'm going to come to you now. While I'm saying it, you wanted to say something. Yeah, exactly. I needed a passport to get you. And my passport says Michael Julius Tellinger in capitals. Passport. What port did I pass? Yeah. I didn't pass any ports. I came on a bloody aeroplane. And you start, but anyway, all this stuff is in my book, in the Ubuntu book. So, because it's important to realize, to have this backing, because when you start trying to share this information with the average, as Louise calls them, porridge eaters out on the street that watch Bold and the Beautiful, and that's the most important thing in their life, and they often don't get it. So it's a lot easier to take them into this ocean of information, slowly walking into the depths of the knowledge pool. Because if you just throw it all at the people, it's too much information. And what do we do when we get too much information? We go, no, I don't want to hear about it. It's too much. I can't deal with it. So step by step, read a page a day and let it digest. So our birth certificates are sold. We are being traded. Our straw man documents, our legal, what's it called? Legal fiction documents, So you're a living, breathing human being, and then you become a legal fiction when they have a certificate or a passport or an ID document of you. So here's proof that our countries are incorporatized, or corporations. You can go and do this for yourself. This is the U.S. Securities Exchange website, and this is a search for companies with names matching South Africa. Companies, names matching South Africa. Okay, there's Anglo-American. I've spoken about Anglo-American. That's Cecil John Rhodes's legacy, the largest company in the world for about 50 years, mining company. And then right below it, Government of the Republic of South Africa. What? It's a corporation? Yes, of course it is. And then we got Lehman Brothers. We got Old Mutual. And I didn't realize how big Old Mutual. Old Mutual is a South African insurance company. It's been there for nearly 100 years. I didn't realize how big Old Mutual. It's the 30th largest company in the world after Barclays PLC. In little South Africa, you got to be kidding me. What are they selling? Household insurance for South Africans? I don't think so. Old Mutual is this monster global consumer of humans. They just devour human beings. And then you get down here, Republic of South Africa is a corporation. And this spills the beans. So when you read the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, it tells you in no uncertain terms, it is not the constitution of the people of the land called South Africa. It's constitution of a corporation. And then the Constitution starts something like this. And then again, they fool the people by a slight twist of wording. It starts, South Africa belongs, we believe that South Africa belongs to all those who live in it. We believe, right? And then in the next sentence, it talks about the Republic and the citizens. And you start realizing, there they go with the legalese. The Republic being the corporation and the citizens being the subject of the corporation, and they keep confusing the two. They keep twisting them so that you think it's all the same, but it's not the same. This is how they fool us every step of the way.
Why is that registered in the USA?
That's all the global countries, everything is registered on the U.S. Securities Exchange. It's a weird thing. Don't ask me why. Everything. Yeah, and you'll find most of them are registered here. Yeah, so because they traded on the U.S. stock markets. Also, the Dunn's website. I think it's Yeah. That's it. You'll find a lot of USA, a lot of the aspects of the USA and the different divisions and cities and states listed there. A lot of it is in my book as well. All the stuff is in my book. So it's too much information. This is just some examples of some other countries and states and that being registered. I used to have a much longer list, but I just cut it down to one just to show you that it's not just South Africa. That it, Of course. Yeah, Canada still belongs to England, belongs to the Queen. It's a complete invasion. And by the way, do you know that Germany, and I only discovered this when I was on tour in Germany, in Europe now in March and April, that Germany remains occupied territory by NATO since the war. Germany is not actually a free independent country. That's been so well hidden. The Germans are pissed off, and I'm not surprised. I really feel for the German people, I tell you. They are so abused right now. They're probably some of the most abused people on planet Earth. While Germany is supposed to be so successful and everyone looks at Germany as a great story of success, it's occupied territory. NATO occupied territory. The German passports after the war are completely different to the German passports before the war. I've seen it. They've shown it to me. It's amazing. And so let's move on, because let's get to the good stuff. What do people need? We need food, water, love is very important. We need friendship. We need homes and tables and chairs and knives and forks and gardens and clothes. We need technology, maybe, maybe not. Depends on what kind of technology it is. Oh, wow, what happened? I said technology and suddenly the lights came on. You see, we can manifest. We can manifest with the words that we speak. And we need healthcare, of course, but we need the right kind of healthcare. And we need arts and culture, and we need everything we can imagine, everything your mind can imagine. What we don't need is money. Money is the one thing that keeps getting in the way of us having all that stuff that I just mentioned. Why? Well, just think about your life. Everything you've ever wanted to do, from buying a new car, or fixing your car, or adding a room to your house, or going on a holiday, or whatever it is you want to do. If you don't have the money, you can't do it. That's it. Money always gets in the way. Millions of people every day go around to the banks with great ideas, and they say, "Here, Mr. Banker, I live in this town and we desperately need a bakery, and here's a model for a bakery. I'm going to bake the best bread because I've been a baker in this big bakery over there, and I'm going to set up a bakery in my own community." And the banker looks at you, they takes the papers, and he says, "You know, Mr. Tillinger, I recognize you're a really good baker, and the people love your bread, and they all desperately need your bread. But looking at your financial projections, we unfortunately can't loan you the money because it does not make economic or financial sense. It's not financially viable, so I'm afraid you're not going to be able to bake bread and provide your community with bread." That's what it is. Money gets in the way of everything. Money gets in the way of prosperity of communities, of our towns. Every step of the way. It has infiltrated every crack and crevice of our existence. If you just think, from the moment you open your eyes in the morning till the time you go back to bed and you close your eyes and go to dreamland, pretty much everything we do in our lives revolves around money. Just think about it. I know that at first, when you start processing this, you think, "Oh, not really. Well, I'm driving to the shop to buy stuff." Well, why are you driving to the shop to buy stuff? If you lived in a society without money, you wouldn't have to drive anywhere. The stuff would be available to you right very, very within walking distance to where you go. You wouldn't have to drive a car, but on the way to the shop, you have to stop at the gas station and put in some petrol. Oh, and if you don't have money, you can't put in the petrol. Everything revolves around the money. Most of the time we spend on the internet. We are sending invoices and collecting money and following up on this. And you go to any restaurant, listen to the discussions that the people are having around you. Most of the time, it's about, "Oh, I've got this great deal here or great deal there. Are we going to be exporting this or importing that? Or we got a new factory setting up here. We're going to be manufacturing. And we got a production line in China." It's all about corporatization, and it's all about money. quite spectacular. Hardly ever do you hear people talking about flower arrangements or art lectures that their children go to, or beautiful things. You do hear it, and that's when it really surprises you. But next time you go to a restaurant, just sit down, or go to a public space like airports. Airports are fantastic. You just hear economic money shit coming out of people's mouths all the time. It never stops. It's like a poison to your system when you recognize it. We are under constant attack by this thing called money. It's infiltrated, and I repeat this, every crack and crevice of our humanness. And this is what we need to get rid of. And let me tell you that it is not easy. I'm going to come to that. How are we going to get rid of it? That's the good news. We're heading towards that. Yeah. It is not easy, people. So, when I start sharing with you the steps we're going to take, not the steps we're going to take, the steps we've already started to take, how to rid ourselves from the money, how to move towards a utopian society, and I use that beautiful word, utopia. By now I trust you realize it's a beautiful word, utopia. It's not a dirty word. Moving towards a utopian society where everything is free and we live in absolute harmony and our planet of absolute abundance without our wildest, beyond our wildest imagination. Step by step. It's not easy, but because it's going to take several steps of using money itself to free ourselves from the money, we've got to recognize as people, we can't go from zero to hero. We're going to have to use money to free ourselves from the money, to set up the structure so that we don't need money anymore. That's the only way we're going to do it. There is no other way out of this. Well, there actually is, and I set the scene and the scenario in my book again, the Ubuntu book, because we could be hit by a meteorite or a solar flare, or something that forces us into a situation with no money. So, and we can talk about that. So, we need to realize that because it's going to take several steps to move away from money and set up various systems, it doesn't mean it's going to take a long time. And this is the important thing, because I now speak with absolute conviction. 5 years ago, I couldn't imagine myself being here talking to you about this. 3 years ago, I couldn't imagine we'd be in the elections in South Africa. A year ago, I couldn't imagine that our little town that is so destroyed and divided, a typical post-apartheid South African town of about 4,000 people, and all South African towns still suffer the separation of the township and the old white suburbs. But that's now been integrated, where the white suburbs are now filled with the nouveau riche black people who've been sucked into the capitalistic model, who now think they've really struck it big because they got the latest Porsche or the latest BMW SUV, and they've now made it, and all their poor bastards and cousins still live in the townships. And that's what it's come. It's just become just tipped the scales. So a year ago, I couldn't imagine that our little town, where we got 80% unemployment, and people still survive, that we could unite our little town. So much so that the ANC, which has become a fascist dictatorship, basically all the ANC and our like Bolsheviks used to be in the Russian, in Russia. They become like the foot soldiers for the ANC to try and stomp and eliminate anything good that the communities want to develop. That's what happened in South Africa. So when you hear about the ANC and what they're doing, see them as a fascist, oppressive regime, because that's what they are. And corrupt. One of the most corrupt regimes in the world. Poor Nelson Mandela is turning in his grave. But I must tell you, I think Nelson Mandela sold us out. I do suspect that he did sell us out. And it breaks my heart to say it, but I think he was made an offer he could not refuse. That's how it works with this money system and the absolute power that these bankers have. You will not believe the power that they wield. That's why this process is not an easy one, but it doesn't mean it's not achievable. It doesn't mean it's going to take a long time. All we have to do is start this process. And the good news is we've started this process. That's the incredible news. In my wildest dreams, I couldn't imagine that our little town is now developing community projects. All the youth in the town are so behind what we're doing that the ANC guys are running scared. They are so confused by what's going on that the Ubuntu movement, which we're making very clear, is not a political movement. It's a movement of consciousness. It's an Ubuntu. African word is Ubuntu is an African word. But you don't have to explain it to the people. They know what Ubuntu means. Everyone is starting to cite. People are walking up to our offices in our Ubuntu, what we call Ubuntu Village, which is really the head office of the Ubuntu movement, at our place there by the river. And they come in to say, we want to participate in all the stuff that we see is going on around us. They're volunteering. And I could not imagine that we would be able to unite our little town the way and at the pace we're uniting it. So when I tell you it doesn't have to take long, I speak from experience where I never imagined this could happen. So money does nothing, remember? We don't need money. What we need is each other. Because money does nothing. People do everything. And this is why I have a problem with virtually all the other so-called systems. Like, as much as I love Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project, and as much as I love what the Occupy Wall Street guys have done, and the Thrive movement are doing, and etc. And what's the other, the Zeitgeist movement have done. Now, those are probably the three big movements. They haven't provided solutions. And they keep putting technology or something else. And no, it's about the people. It's about us. People first. Always. People first. Everything must come second. Because people grow the seeds and plant the seeds and grow the food. People design the technology and build the bridges and develop the energy devices and create the technology. And people are capable of infinite love. Money cannot do that. And it keeps getting in the way. It destroys love. It destroys affection between people. It causes wars. It creates utter destruction on this planet. And that's what we need to eradicate. People create the art and the culture. Only people can create the most beautiful works of art that reduce you to tears, that make you go to bed imagining that you can do something similar. Money cannot do this. Money is the obstacle to all progress. You know this already. I've given you a very simple example of the bakery. It's the absolute tool of control. This you have to absolutely imprint in your mind. There is no more powerful tool of control today than money and the bankers that control it, because they make it out of thin air and they make us all debt slaves from the day we are born. What's happening? Just think about the poor kids that we send to university, to what you call college here. You send the kids to college. They come out of college. The average university graduate has got $100,000 debt that they've created. For what? For a frickin' certificate with which they're going to do what? Look for a job. I mean, if you can't see the trap in that, it's insane. Most of the students that are leaving university today will probably never get out of debt, and they don't even know this. So what I'm telling you is take your students, or your children out of school, take them out of university, stop opening them up to a life of slavery, because that's all we are doing to our children. Bring them into these communities of teaching skills for life, true learning, skills for life that they will really be able to know how to survive, know what to do as living, breathing human beings to live on this planet and provide, not only survive, but provide abundance for all the other people around them. So, this money thing is a huge problem. We have to find a new system. And Albert Einstein is the one that told us very clearly that you can't solve the problem with the same tools that created the problem. And he also tells us that the problems we create, that to solve the problems we create, will require a complete change of the way we look at the problems. So we know what the problem is. Money is the problem. We've got to come up with a solution that we've never had before. And that only solution is to get rid of money. That's the only thing we've never done. Doesn't matter how you change this, and we're going to change bitcoins and other forms of currency and this. It's not going to work. It's just an alternative source of enslavement. So the only thing we can do is remove the money. And this is where the very ancient philosophy of Ubuntu comes in, which I called, in 2005, I called it contributionism, not really knowing at that stage yet that Ubuntu and contributionism are exactly the same thing. Except what contributionism does, and the way that I define it and describe it in my book, is taking this ancient philosophy of people working together in united communities for the greatest benefit of everyone in the community, not at the expense of everyone and the benefit of a few, but working for the greatest benefit of all the people in their community, applying it to a modern society, to us today. We can't step out of the trap that we're in and decide we're going to move, we got to work our way out of this system. So what contributionism is really a model, what I call a blueprint for human prosperity, step by step, recognizing what we need to do to get ourselves out of this trap and out of this slavery system. And it's a beautiful journey. Once that penny drops for you, it will be and remain the most exciting moment in your life, because you'll realize that you have the power in you. You have the knowledge, the ability, and the necessary tools to start taking those steps and infecting everyone in your sphere of influence with that knowledge and information. And that's what this is all about. It's such a beautiful system.
So, is it Ubuntu a corporation?
No.
It's all in caps.
Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. God damn it, I've been caught out. Damn, sorry. Louise, please, can we just change the slide for next time? No, it's not a corporation. And what we are doing, however, we're creating Ubuntu Planet as a non-profit organization, because that's the only way we can get donations and we can get people to fund us. So when you see the Ubuntu Planet non-profit organization, don't think we've gone rogue. It's the only way we can accept funding, because we got to use money to get ourselves out of money. Of course we're asking for money. And I'll tell you why we're asking for money. I'm getting there.
You have to incorporate it. You have to incorporate it first and then get non-profit status.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So we're actually in the process. It's taken us more than 6 months to try and register the Ubuntu Planet non-profit organization. And I don't know why it's taken this long. It normally takes 1 week or 2 weeks. It's taken us about 6 months now. I don't know what's going on there. Yes, sir.
But aren't you really playing into their game if you go register? Why can't you make up your own rules and say, I'm not going to play their game, I'm going to play my game?
Yeah. It's a very good question. There's a very simple answer for that.
Today is Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
You guys remember Kobayashi Maru, Captain Kirk, the way he beat the unwinnable scenario was he cheated. He just changed the rules.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that's a very lofty concept, okay? And it's easier said, but there is technology today that will allow you to automate, to make autonomous, and make private, and put the power back into the people, away from centralization, away from the banks. It's all about us, not them.
I know that, and you bring up a very valid point, and I get a lot of emails, people expressing exactly that same sentiment. That is a stage we want to get to a few steps down the road. Unfortunately, we can't start from that point of departure. So, unfortunately, if we're going to use money to free ourselves from the money, we're going to have to accept donations. Right now...
But we create our own money, not their money.
Okay, again, what you're saying is part of the plan. Okay, you jumping the gun here. You're jumping the gun. Okay. I can take you to the final outcome, showing you the final picture, and say that's where we're going, and walk out of here. But unfortunately, that's not going to solve the problem. Okay, so I'm going down the path here to share with you the process that I've gone through over a 10-year period since 2005, working through this. And some of these questions are probably in what I'm going to come up with. Because once you say to people, we're going to move towards a world without money, we're going to remove money from the system, all hell breaks loose. And our indoctrination starts to play havoc with us. And I've brought it down to 13 most frequently asked questions. When you tell people we're going to create a world without money, okay, and the fear kicks in. It's just instant. And I'm sure some of you are already experiencing it right now. And these are just 8 of the 13 most frequently asked questions. And you're probably thinking them as you're reading them. The good news is that I can tell you right now, let's look at the world today. I'm going to come back to these, and I'm going to give you answers to these, just to see how simple the answers are. And it took me a long time to figure it out. It's going to take you a few minutes to figure it out, because that's how the consciousness has risen. You are a lot more connected to this already subconsciously than I was in 2005. And what's interesting about this is that if we look at our lives today, in the world today, how many problems do you think that we have in the world today? Millions of problems, right? Millions of problems. Well, think about what I'm sharing with you here. It's probably the best news I can share with you. In a 10-year period, and probably 100,000 questions that I've had to face on email and from people in live situations, 100,000 questions, maybe less, who knows. There are 13 most frequently asked questions and problems that people come up with. 13. It's an interesting number, that 13, isn't it? Yeah. And so out of a world today where we face millions of problems that we need to solve, everyone that's come into that gets exposed to a world without money can only come up with 13 possible problems we need to solve. So what I'm telling you is the moment we remove money from the system, we need to solve 13 major problems and we can live in utopia. And I think we can do that. We can probably put this out to a bunch of primary school kids and they'll solve the problems for us. Because those young kids are very smart. They know what the problems are and they're not brainwashed yet the way that we are or even the university students are. They are very free in the way they think. So this is a spectacular breakthrough. We need to solve 13 problems to move towards utopia. And we're going to solve those as we go down this process. So who's going to shovel the crap in a world without money? Well, before you start answering these questions for yourself, first you got to process in your mind. And again, remember Albert Einstein. You got to change your mindset completely to solve the problems that we're facing. You can't be in the same system to try imagine saving the problem. So the first thing you need to ask yourself, well, if there's no money, what's going to happen to technology? Right? Technology, what's going to happen to the petroleum industry? What's going to happen to energy? What's going to happen to the pharmaceutical industry? What has money and the corporate control done to energy, electricity, the drug cartels, healing, cures for all disease, technology? What has money done to that? It has suppressed new discoveries. It has suppressed free energy. It has suppressed cures for all disease. It has suppressed everything good that we should be experiencing as the human race. The moment you remove money, first thing is going to happen is thousands of inventors around the world are going to share their free energy devices. The alternative healing techniques, cures for all disease, are going to be coming out of the woodwork everywhere. Everything that you can imagine that is previously suppressed is going to become available to all of us, because those that no longer need the feel they need to accumulate the money are going to share that information with everybody. And it's happening. But we're not feeling the benefit. We're not feeling the benefit of that. The global community is not feeling the benefit of that. Can you walk into a hospital and get your arm to regrow if it's been blown off? No, you can't. But yet that technology exists. So we know it exists. We know it's out there. But it is not filtered through to everyone in the world. We can't benefit from it. Only the very few that are at some weird secret society will benefit from that. So, of course. So what's happening with the Ubuntu and contributionist philosophy is to break down the central control and let people govern themselves in their own communities. Again, I'm coming to that because it's part of this process. Okay. Once again, I can tell you, we're going to live in a utopian society, and you're going to walk away here, well, how the hell does he think he's going to do it? There's definitely a process that we need to... I'm not telling you this is the process, but this is just a guideline for what we need to start thinking about. So, just think about this. And one of my really disturbing things that one of the 13 frequently asked questions is human nature. People say, oh, human nature is to be lazy. Humans don't want to do anything. They just want to sit on their ass and do nothing. And I just go, how dare you pass comment on human nature? How dare you say that humans are lazy from a perspective of absolutely being brainwashed, being the product of a capitalistic society where people are told all their lives that you're no good for nothing, get off your ass and do something, go get a job, get a career. all forcing you to buy into the capitalistic model, and laziness is just a consequence of not wanting to hold down a job that pays you a few bucks that you can't even pay electricity or buy enough bread to feed yourself. So if you're born Michelangelo and the last thing you want to do is go and work in a factory somewhere, of course you're going to come across as a lazy bum, because it doesn't resonate with you. And this is exactly what we need to turn on its head, so that people wake up in the morning and with a smile on their face and can't wait to run out and do what it is they've chosen to do for their community. But I'm getting to that again. I'm jumping the gun here. So human nature is not to be lazy. Think about the first things that we do when we are born as children. The first things we do is we make movements with our fingers. We make noises with our mouths. We do things. When we're old enough to walk, we start to build sandcastles. We do amazing things. We draw. What does that tell us? We create. What we do is we want to create. That's the first aspect of human nature. So we can clearly say, if we are infinite divine fractals of the infinite creation, and that energy, that prime resonance frequency resonates within us, that means we ourselves are primary creators. All we want to do is create. And unfortunately, the system we're born into beats that out of us. You say, no, you can't do that. You must go to school, learn, get a career, get a certificate, get a job. That's what happens. All that creativity gets beaten out of us. Think about it when you try and take art and music at school. It's looked down upon. No, take science and physics and all that. Oh, that's very good. And accounting, especially accounting, very good. Music, no, bad. So it shows you how very subconsciously that stuff is being skewed. So a world without money, you take money out of the system, everything, all the bad stuff disappears. No crime, no envy, no gluttony, no greed, no hoarding, no hierarchy, no hunger. And I know that it might not make sense immediately, but one of the first things that will disappear is crime. If I don't have to buy stuff, then why would I go into your house and take something that I can get from the way the system works? And not only get, but it's actually custom made for me. So why would I want to go into your house and take something that's custom made for you when I get it custom made for me? By those who make it for me, because what I do benefits everybody else. And once again, I'm going to explain that in more detail. In the contributionist philosophy, I've broken it down to a 5-point mantra. No money, no barter, no trade, no value attached to anything greater than anything else, because all our contributions should always be seen and always be equally valuable. And the word value actually has no place in a world without money. The word value already suggests that something is more valuable than anything else. And if there's still people out there that think because they're a doctor or a scientist or something that their time is more valuable than other people, you need to go and see a shrink, and get yourself sorted out. Yeah.
The other people are Americans who move around all over the place and don't come from anywhere. Usually, many Americans like me. I've lived in 5 countries.
Yeah.
I have 3 passports.
You're a lucky one. You can jump on a plane and get out when they start rounding out the people for the FEMA camps. Yeah. 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 There's definitely a different energy in the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. I mean, I know we live in the south, and when we come north, it's very different. Yeah. So did you want to say something? Yeah, yeah.
So if there's no money, no barter, no trade, how do we get money?
I know, that's one of the 13 frequently asked questions. Yeah. Doesn't mean I can just go somewhere and take stuff. No, it's not a lawless society. In fact, absolute freedom requires absolute control. And once again, we must understand the absolute control thing. It means control of yourself, control of your own actions, of your own responsibilities towards the people around you, not absolute control from a hierarchical structure. And it requires a growth in your own personal consciousness, being responsible for everything you do, absolute control of your actions towards everybody else. So and it's a system where everybody contributes their God-given talents, the talents you're born with. And remember, these talents are very important. The Bible talks about these talents in great detail. It's a very important subliminal message that we get in the Bible about our talents that we're born with and how we squander them and we don't use them. So once again, the God-given talents that we're born with, or the acquired skills, because many of us have many passions and hobbies that we do throughout our lives that we become really good at, right? It's not necessarily a talent you feel you're born with, but when you start playing cricket or playing the piano and you go, wow, I can do that, but I can also play the piano really well. So we find that we have many talents, not just one talent, but some of these talents become more like acquired skills because we don't recognize them as talents earlier in our lives. So where we all contribute our natural talents or acquired skills for the greatest benefit of everyone in our community. How that works, I'm coming to. So don't jump the gun. So what I refer to as Ubuntu and contributionism, those two philosophies, it's so simple that we can't screw it up. And the reason I say we can't screw it up, because I've seen over a 10-year period, out of thousands and thousands of really critical questions that in the beginning I didn't know the answers to, and I still don't know all the answers. But what I find is that we can't screw it up. Why can't we screw it up? Because it's a self-corrective system. It corrects itself. No matter what problem you throw at it, it always corrects itself for the best outcome of the people in the community. Because it's not a hierarchical structure. It is a community-driven philosophy and not a free-for-all. It's driven by a centralized group of people that have been appointed by the community to be the spokes voice so that everyone in the community speaks with one voice. And decisions are made on behalf of the people of the community, which I call the Council of Elders. And in case I don't come back to this, 13 people, 12 around one, making decisions for and on behalf of the community. And this Council of Elders, its job, that's a terrible word that, its function, its role in the community is to sit there every day and interact with the people of the community and decide hour by hour what is best for the community. And decide that, you know what, it's not really important for us to build a rocket to go to Mars today. Okay, it's more important to do something else. I don't exactly know how that's going to work, but the community and the Council of Elders will figure out how it works. That's why it's a self-correcting system. Nobody can tell you what to do. The people of the community, through its Council of Elders, will decide. And on that basis, I also need to bring into focus here is what I've started referring to, probably slightly maliciously, because I wanted to just rattle people's brain when they read this. And I call it, as opposed to a majority rule system or democracy, I call it a minority rule system. And when you say, it's a minority rule system, people go, what do you mean? It's because in a world without money, all the minorities will be taken care of to the best of their ability. And there are many more minorities than there are majorities. So in essence, we're looking at a minority control or minority rule system, where a lot of minorities, whether it's people that collect stamps or people that paint eggs or whatever they all need special things and paint and brushes and a place to do it in. All minorities will be taken care of, because all minorities, whatever it is they do, will benefit everyone else in the community. And that's how everybody gets the benefit of this activity. So it's a self-correcting system. It follows the natural laws, follows the laws of nature, and that's why we cannot screw it up. And I'm telling you, I've had thousands and thousands of questions. The last real question that nearly it did trip me up for a little while, was in Cape Town in February, when we had our first tour. A bunch of people that came down, and we were staying in this beautiful resort called Monkey Valley that looks over a long beach, a spectacular place. And up there was they were sharing the house with the rooms in it at the top overlooking the beach, was this group from New York. And it was a guy called Bartholomew, somebody, who's an English guy that lives in New York, and he's the son of the world's most famous wine buyer. Yeah. And they were in Cape Town buying wine, because Cape Town is a famous wine producing region. So once a year he takes a group of people to Cape Town, and they come and buy wine in Stellenbosch and Paarl and all the wine growing regions there. And we were sitting up there at the pool with our feet in the water, and we started talking, and he asked, Louise and I, well, what do you do? And, when people ask you, what do you do like that, it's, well, how do you start, And I just told him briefly, well, we're working on a new alternative system for the world, moving away from money. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And he speaks with a very posh English accent, Bartholomew. And he's clearly very important in the wine industry worldwide because everyone there was kissing his butt. And then, I told him, and then he said, well, this is a big problem. So who gets to drink the best wine? and he got me for a little while. And I went, well, the best wine in whose book? So, well, everybody knows what the best wine is. I said, really? Do you know? Let's ask that person what they think who the best wine is. Oh, well, they're not skilled in wine tasting. Ah, okay. So now you're talking about a whole skill thing. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
Well, Manischewitz is my favorite. But how different is this system to a true tribal, African tribal system?
Okay, I'm going to come to that. Let me just finish the story so I can explain to you how this is a self-correcting system. And it'll always correct itself for the best outcome. But I had to think about this because, again, in a world without money, science and technology is not going to be restricted. We know that everything is resonance. Everything is based on resonance, harmonics. You can recreate anything anywhere if you understand that principle. You can recreate something out of nothing over there. And if you got wine in a bottle here and you want that same wine in this bottle here, you can do that. Okay, understand this. You need to, if you don't understand this, then you're still not on the program, with the program, and you're not on the same page. If you can create DNA in a freaking laboratory with sound, replicate a DNA strand, then means you'll be able to replicate that exact bottle of wine in this bottle here. So my answer to Bartholomew was, I'm first going to have to give you a lesson in physics and science, and you may not follow this. Boy, did I lose this guy so quickly. He couldn't. And he says, well, everybody in the wine industry knows that there's only an acre of land somewhere in the hills of France or Portugal that grows the best wine in the world. And I said, well, a world without money, the science and technology will be able to replicate those exact circumstances and those exact conditions so we can replicate that wine in 1 million places around the world. Boy, did I confuse him. He couldn't swallow that. He just didn't know how to deal with that. And that's what this comes down to, people. Can you see how a world without money frees us up from this compartmentalization and makes everything possible? But first, you've got to understand the laws of nature. So when I say that the Ubuntu movement and the contributionist philosophy follows the laws of nature, I really, truly mean that to the highest and the lowest level of our understanding of the laws of nature. It's a replication of the laws of nature. That's what the system is. It's not my system. I didn't come up with this. It's your system. Once we apply this, you will be in your community, wherever you live, you'll be the activators and the decision makers as to how your community will operate. I'm not going to be involved in that at all. So, in essence, once you leave this, I'm no longer any effect on how you deal with this and how you apply this. I've just shared this philosophy, and what you do with it and how you develop this is entirely up to you. But understand that it's not a dictatorial or a hierarchical system. And that makes it very difficult for most of us to understand, because we keep looking up for some higher authority to tell us what to do. And that's a problem. We're not used to coming up with solutions and problem solving immediately with our own community and our own society. So, how do we get there? Step by step.
My question, you said that this was an ancient system.
Ancient system, yeah.
I didn't really get where.
Well, Ubuntu is a African philosophy, and if you go and look at it, you'll find that all ancient cultures have the same philosophy. It doesn't matter where you go. In the Americas, in the jungles of Brazil, in Asia, in Australia, it's about communities living together, not earning money and bribing each other or exchanging. Okay, let me put it this way. Okay, if you come from a family of 4 or 6 people, right? You wake up in the morning, you go down to the kitchen, the kids come down, you're making some toast and some eggs and some flapjacks, and your daughter comes in and she takes a flapjack and say, "Sorry, that's $5." Wait, can you imagine yourself doing that? Of course not. It's insane, right? So now start thinking about your family as an extended family. Your community becomes your family. So are you going to charge your friends and your neighbors and the people in your community $5 for a flapjack? Of course you're not. We got to start thinking in that fashion. Everyone is your family, not just the people that live under your roof. That's this huge, complete move away from how we've been compartmentalized in apartments. Separated and segregated from each other, in fear of each other, instead of working together, united in spirit and united in absolute knowledge of all the stuff around us. Scared to talk to each other because, I don't know, he might be a terrorist. You know, that's what's happened. This fear-mongering is a very powerful thing. Yes, John?
Quick question about time management. How are you doing with regard to getting through the old time?
I don't know. How am I doing time-wise? An hour? Okay. So I'm nearly finished here, and then we can debate this. So I think I'm a few slides away from being finished. So it's going to be step by step through cooperation and not competition. Competition is the worst thing that's ever been bestowed on humanity or dumped on humanity. And all our lives, once again, this is how poisoned our minds have become. Competition is good. If you work hard, you can get to the top. And you can be in charge, you can rule, and you can control. You'll make more money than anyone else because you're competitive. That's the poison pill. Throw it away. We don't want competition. We want cooperation. Competition destroys everything. It destroys families. It destroys love. It creates war and conflict. It destroys progress. It suppresses information and technology. It is the antithesis of freedom, competition. Cooperation, constructive cooperation, is what we need to participate in, where scientists work together so that whatever they develop, aside from free energy to new technology, whatever it is, to farmers with new things. And you know, I've spoken about the energy devices that are available to make food grow in abundance, not poisoned fertilizers and so forth. All that technology exists. So working together so we can all benefit from this technology and not put it in boxes and shiny metal boxes to sell it to people around the world. So everybody has access to that knowledge, that information, that technology, that water, that food, that wherever you want to live, all that stuff is available all the time. And I believe that transition in small steps, as I mentioned already, use money itself to free us from the money. There is no shortcut solution unless we're hit by a meteor or a solar flare and everything collapses and tomorrow morning we wake up and we have to apply this immediately. That's a shortcut to this, and I deal with that in my book as well. As to what happens if we wake up tomorrow morning, there's no electricity, no communication, no cell phones, nothing. You wake up, all you have, your computers don't work, your car doesn't work because it's all, silicon chip-based technology. You can't go anywhere, can't phone anyone. You'd have no idea what the hell is bloody going on. How long will you survive under those conditions? Okay, start thinking about that, because that is a distinct possibility. So this is really preparing us for that as a possibility, to realize that if we really get together and say, right, who are the bakers here? Right, bake some bloody bread. Who can grow food? You grow the bloody food. Who are the scientists to create alternative electricity? You start working on the electricity. What are we going to do? We're not going to charge each other for it. We're going to do it for our collective good. Same thing, same concept of sending a group of people to Mars or another planet. So you get all these great minds together, you send them to another planet, and you say, go colonize a planet, go set up a base for humanity there. They go there and they'll start doing what they're doing, and after 5 years they've set up this amazing colony. They're living in absolute abundance. Think about it. Because they're not charging each other for it, right? They're just creating this abundance for each other. And then at some stage this arsehole from Earth arrives and he says, right, as of next month we're going to start compartmentalizing you, and the doctors are going to get paid a lot more than the toilet cleaners. What do you think is going to happen on that colony? They're going to tell you to stuff off. We're having a beautiful life here. We're living in harmony. We've got more than we need. And we're going to charge you for the food that you create now. And it's not going to happen. So once people have this established thing, and this is very, very important, it's not going to be easy to start doing this in the big cities. Unfortunately, this is a reality. It is a lot easier, like what we are doing in our little town of 4,000 people, to start implementing this philosophy in small towns and villages. And this is where I believe the real solutions lie, is getting this information and the people in small towns and villages to really understand this and start to implement this, to appoint their own council of elders that speaks on behalf of the people as opposed to speaking one-to-one to the municipality or the local council that is actually causing the problems in your town. The moment you have a collective voice that speaks on behalf of the people towards the municipality, you've created a very powerful structure. And this is a very important thing. So it's like the foundation to start this thing moving upwards. The next thing is community projects. This is critical. We all know what we need. We need water, food, housing. We need milk, bread, whatever else you need. In our little community, and I'm going to talk about the community projects because you're going to get involved. Imagine having this community that has developed all these community projects, and all you need to do is get the people to work in each one of these community projects for 3 hours a week. In a town of 1,000 people, if everybody works for 3 hours a week in one of the community projects, that's 3,000 hours a week, a voluntary commitment. Then you can do what you want. You can still have a job if you want. You can do whatever you want. 3 hours a week is all it takes to start this state of abundance. How much do you think you can do in a town of 1,000 people with 3,000 hours a week? You'll have too much bread, too much milk, too many bridges, too much electricity, too much of everything, because 3,000 hours a week, no council or municipality can afford to pay people to work that much in a week. It's not going to happen. And this is how quickly we can change that. That's how quickly. All we need to do is change our bloody perspective and our mind and realize it's up to us whether we can do this or not. What's really exciting about this is that energy seems to be the foundation of this. And this is why energy is most likely the most fiercely protected area of global industry. Because once people have access to free electricity, we can do all that. It's very difficult to control and enslave people. So what we're doing in our town is we've already found an alternative source of electricity. The people are starting to hear about it. And I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but in Africa, once people know that they have got access to free electricity, no local municipality or council is going to stop them. That's the beautiful thing, because there's 80% unemployment. Once people sniff that rag, they're going to be after it. Right? So we know that's how we can unite the people. Tell them that we have access to free electricity. Once you have this provision of alternative free uncapped electricity, all you got to do is say, you can have this free uncapped electricity. All you have to do is work for 3 hours a week in one of the community projects. It's not slave labor. It's a voluntary thing. You can keep paying for the electricity, be a slave, or get free electricity and come work and have fun with all the other people in your community. Work in the bakery, work in the dairy, in the fish farm, on the fields, in the electronics shop, in the pharmaceutical thing. It develops alternative shampoos and soaps using the local knowledge of the medicine men that starts to produce real beautiful shampoos and whatever little pharmacy or laboratory can produce, so people can get the stuff for free or almost free. You can imagine how quickly these community projects can bring abundance to your small community. I mean, can you see it, or am I just imagining this for myself? Yeah. Sometimes I'm not sure whether it's... So once we get this electricity thing, it's going to work. But not every community is going to be able to do that. So there are other ways to do it. For example, where we are, what we need to do is unite the people. We need to make people realize that they can trust those who are implementing these. We've got to regain the trust of the people. And this is critical because the people are divided. They're distrustful. They've been lied to. They've been abused. They've been stolen from. They don't trust anyone in a person of authority anymore. They don't trust the municipality. Our mayor has just been fired because 3.5 million rand went missing from the kitty. You know, this is the kind of environment that we come from. So 80% unemployment. What is the most biggest problem there is people don't have money to buy food. So that's why they go and break into your car, your house, to steal something so they can go and sell it to some schmuck and make 20 bucks so they can buy food for a day or two. And then that runs out. Then they have to steal something else. So if you can feed the people so they don't have to worry about their next meal, you've solved a huge problem. That seems to be an African situation. Here it's probably something else. In Australia it's very different. In Norway it's even more different. So every community will have a different set of circumstances that people need to work with. We have to do the following. Our first plan of action with our community projects is to establish a community kitchen where we feed the homeless, the orphans, the young mothers with HIV children. We feed the aged, and those people that simply have no money to buy food. Where do we get that money from? From recycling the rubbish dump. They're polluting our beautiful mountain by turning it into a dump ground. We recycle the rubbish dump, use that money from the recycling to buy food, to create and create one good meal a day for the people that simply cannot afford food. The moment you've done that, you've regained the people's trust, and they will follow you every step of the way because they know you're not lying to them. You're delivering on your promises. Did you want to say something? Yeah, well, our town is 4,000 people. Yeah. So we're probably going to have to feed about 500 people a day, maybe more. That's a large number of people. But here's the rub. And this is where you see how the contributionist philosophy kicks in from the very word go. You can't just provide a meal a day for the people for nothing. Because now you're creating a culture of dependency. And that's the last thing you want to do, because that's what our governments want to do. They've done it with the Aboriginal people, with the Native American people, with the Native Canadian people. They're masters at this. Remember, a culture of dependency is what destroys humanity. So we need to reverse that process and say, right, you can come and get one meal a day, but you have to work for 3 hours in one of the community projects. Now we got potentially 500 people a day working for 3 hours to come get a meal, which they're happy to do because we've done the survey. Now we got a beautiful point of departure to create this contributionist philosophy from the word go without any upheaval, without forcing people to do anything, without luring them to false promises, and so forth. So these are some of the simple steps. And from this you can take it further. Once you have a community like this, or a little town that's got everyone in the community working for 3 hours a week, the philosophy of contributionism is not a closed system. And some people confuse it with a self-sustained community. No, that's not what it is. I must make it very clear. There are many self-sustained communities around the world. That's a closed system, a closed organism. And any scientist will tell you, closed systems fail. They suffocate each other. They are recipes for disaster. They implode. It needs to be an open system through which energy flows. And in fact, when the energy flows through it, it generates more energy. And that's exactly how the system is created. Because the contributionist philosophy is that by working for 3 hours a week, we work out how much we need for the entire community to consume, and we create 3 times as much. That's the Holy Trinity principle. It's a very important number, and there's a reason for it. So we create 3 times as much as we need in every area of community projects. So that after we've consumed the 1/3 we've created for our own community, we have 2/3 to make available to the communities around us. We have created that stuff, whether it's bread or cheese or milk or window frames or energy devices or whatever the hell it is. Once we've created that, we create these virtually for free. They may not be completely free because there's still money necessary to keep the factory going or whatever. But they're virtually free because people work for free for 3 hours a week. So we're making it virtually for free, which means we can make these things available to all the neighboring communities. And that is the moment. That's the tipping scale, people. I hope you can all see this. This is the domino effect. That's the first domino to fall. There is no such community in the world today. I get asked this question. Well, where are such communities as examples? There are none. We're building the first one, because if there was one, we would all be living in utopia by now. Because the moment you've created this, all the neighboring towns and the people from the neighboring communities will come to you to buy their milk and their bread and cheese and their windows and whatever it is you manufacture, because they'll be getting it at a fraction of the cost that it's available at their stores in their town. And this is why you can say with absolute confidence that the philosophy of contributionism devours and consumes and destroys capitalism. It stops it in its tracks and replaces it with abundance and absolute freedom of the people. There is no other description for it. Contributionism devours and destroys capitalism. It is a beautiful thing. And this is why it's critical that we get one little town one little town going, and it's all over. It's not possible because all the neighboring towns will implement the same philosophy within weeks, maybe months, within weeks, sometimes within days, because they realize, oh my goodness, look what they're doing. We got to do the same. We can't keep buying our stuff from them. Because what have you done once you've created this? You've collapsed the capitalistic model in all your neighboring towns. It's not going to work. All their businesses are going to go out of business because they're all going to be coming to buy their stuff from you. So, new education system, learning skills for life. Why is that important?
Buy the stuff from me. What do you mean? Exchange?
No. They don't have exchange. They work with money. So while you're selling it to your neighboring communities for a fraction, like instead of $3 for a liter of milk, you're going to be selling it for $1 for a liter of milk. They're all going to be buying their milk from you. So you're going to grow in wealth, in money, while you're destroying their capitalistic system. You don't really have much need for the money. You're still going to need that money to still buy raw materials that you don't have access to. So you're going to end up with this huge kitty of money in this contribution society, and that money is going to keep pouring in. Going to be incredibly wealthy, so powerful that they might send the feds in to close you down. So that's the one thing that you need to be guarded against. Yeah. Hold on. We're not going to talk about when they send the troops out. We're going to imagine it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're not going to make that a reality, right? Because by the time... Let me just quickly take you through this, because this is critical, people. The new new education system, new learning system is, as we discussed already, the current education system is bogus. It's absolute nonsense. So we need to replace the way we teach our children from the earliest of age. The first thing we need to teach children is the love for Mother Earth. That's it. Because once you love the planet you live on, you're not going to harm her. Teach children how to plant seeds, how to grow food from the earliest of life. And then start these small sort of half a day, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, a week workshops or hands-on training things, from learning how to milk a cow or, whatever it is that children can learn. So by the time you're 16, if you've gone through this process, just think about how this works. By the time you're 16, you will know, and I said this before, you'll know how to build a rocket that goes to Mars. You'll know how to bake bread, how to make cheese, how to milk a cow, how to spin cotton, how to make clothes, how to dye stuff, how to make everything. Because you've done it. You've gone through these little training processes. You're not going to have to learn it from a book. You've done all these things. You know how to do it yourself. And that's the kind of community that I would like to be in, where 16-year-olds are masters of virtually everything. And they're very clear in their minds as to what their life path is. They're not confused by TV or the news or technology. They're very clear as to what their true skills are. And the community they are in already recognize those skills and welcome them with their abilities into the community that they are present in. So master teachers will become critical. Everyone who's a master teacher will become a teacher in that community that these children through their life will go to learn these skills. And in fact, it's important to recognize that community projects will actually become everything that people do. Because if you have, say, 1,000 people in a community, you need enough community projects for 1,000 people to do for 3 hours a week. And 4 projects ain't going to do that. So whether you're a shoemaker, sooner or later, people are going to want to learn how to make shoes. So kids are going to go learn how to make shoes, and the shoemaker is going to become a master teacher. So some people will go for 3 hours a week to learn how to make shoes and help making shoes for everyone else in the community. So they'll become master shoemakers themselves. Expand this as far as your mind can take this. And you can see how incredible and simple and self-corrective this system is. So the other important thing is that there are no jobs or careers. It's all just a labor of love. That's what we do. Follow our natural talents. And in our community, Waterval-Boven, we have a number of community projects. Recycling the rubbish dump, recycling everything. I already mentioned that. The bakery, this bakery has been standing empty for nearly a year now. Why? Because the lady that ran it couldn't afford to pay the electricity bill. That's it. And then since she closed it, somebody has now stolen the electrical cable. So now we've got even a bigger problem. So this is the stuff that we need to redress. Capitalism, theft. It's disgusting. So food growing. This is a food garden that was established about 10 years ago. Equivalent of about $7 million has gone into it. It's completely vandalized, broken down. It's just $7 million down the drain. $7 million down the drain. The lady that ran this told me that there were a bunch of women from the township working there. They would grow the food. They would take it to the market to sell it. Then the municipality would send a driver to collect all the money and take all the money away. And this is like, what? It's just spectacular theft beyond your wildest imagination. The local municipality, yeah. The community center. This is a 5-star post-apartheid community center with 5-star installations, a theater, a movie projecting, a theater with theatrical lights and everything you can imagine. Completely vandalized. Beyond electricity ripped out, everything destroyed. This is what the municipality and what the government has done. Instead of upholding that for the community, they've allowed it to be completely vandalized. So one of the things we started doing is sort of taking over the municipality buildings, because we believe that if it belongs to the municipality, it belongs to the people. So this particular hall and municipality, because there's a bowling green, there's an old gym, there's a snooker table upstairs that's completely ripped apart, there's a beautiful sports ground, basketball, tennis fields, all completely vandalized. We started fixing it. First thing we started doing, and this is what I've been paying for out of my own pocket. So when I say we need funding for this, you understand where it's going. So we've had to take control of this vandalized hall so we can start using it as a community hall for the benefit of the community. The idea is that whatever activities we put in there, whether it's concerts, whether it's showing documentaries or movies, or having an open mic, or having morning literacy classes for the kids and the illiterate adults. There's 50% illiteracy. So use as a proper community hall. And the little bit of money that is made from that, because we'll charge people a little bit amount of money for that, and they'll understand why. The literacy will be for free, obviously, but the evening, like movies and documentaries and bands playing, will charge like equivalent of $1 or something to get in. And the people will then, 50% of that will go to the people running it, so they sustain themselves because they don't have jobs. And the other 50% will go towards buying the food for the community food hall. So now people see the community center as a source of money to feed the people. So once you've got this food hall running, no municipality is going to come and stop it, because they say, sorry, the income from this food, from this community hall, is feeding my granny. You ain't going to close it down. And this is the action that we started putting into place, taking back the town that's been devoured by the municipality. The health clinic looks something like this. This was a health clinic. It was closed down by the municipality. It's completely vandalized. The sporting fields, beautiful rugby field, cricket field, soccer field, they're dust bowls right now. 10 years ago, they were beautiful greens with sprinklers coming out, and that's how beautiful they were. Completely vandalized. This is what the ANC government has done. So when I call them a bunch of thugs, I mean every word. Okay, this is what the rugby field, cloakrooms and change rooms look like on the left, and that's what remains of the cricket field: toilets, change rooms, and grandstand. So when I talk vandalized, I mean vandalized beyond your wildest imagination. This is what we are fixing as the Ubuntu movement. This is what we're bringing back. So when I say we're here on fundraising, this is what we're raising funds for. It's not for me to buy a new fancy car. I'm not interested in cars. And I know that some people still believe that. So let me put that out of your mind immediately. There's a fish farm that was bought by the municipality with money of the people. And it's standing vandalized. This was a state-of-the-art fish farm that could breed 1 million fish a month. Do you know how many people we can feed with 1 million fish a month? And how much excess we can create to bring in funds into the community chest to create more community projects? So this is the next big thing that we're reactivating, is this fish farm. It's standing vandalized and empty. So when I tell you we're doing community projects, I really mean that. And you're seeing just a fraction of them right now. The other thing is one of these halls. That's a huge hall. It might not look like it in this picture. It's a huge hall. One of these big halls we're going to convert into a mushroom growing hall. And we can grow so many mushrooms in one of those halls that we can actually probably provide the entire province of Mpumalanga and all the chain stores, all the food stores with mushrooms. That's how many mushrooms we can grow there. These are all very practical, simple community projects. That'll require people, that'll train skills, pass on these skills. I mean, once you know how to grow mushrooms, that's a serious skill. How many of you know how to grow mushrooms? Exactly. Wow, this is amazing. 3 people. But so you're a very informed crowd. But I don't know. I have no bloody idea how to grow mushrooms. I want to learn that skill. So I'm personally looking forward to it. Mycelium is not an easy thing to reproduce. And then, just to remind you that in unity we thrive and anything is possible. It's all about working in harmony and cooperation, not in competition. And only out of unity comes infinite diversity and abundance. Some people still have this weird thing that, oh, this is all turning us into clones and drones and all going to march. No. It gives you complete and utter freedom. Because it allows you to follow your God-given talents and do exactly what you want. As long as it benefits your community. Yeah, go.
It works if you come from somewhere. You called me lucky, but you're lucky because you come from somewhere.
How do you mean?
You come from a community.
Right.
I don't.
Right, yeah. So you got to find a community. Go find, if you live in the city and you want to escape the city, there's another plan. And we're going to run out of time here, but we've got a much bigger plan than this. How to help the farmers that are on the verge of losing their farms. How to integrate the farmers into the community, the Ubuntu community, provide people to work their land, and in return the farmers retain 33% of the crops, and the Ubuntu community takes 66%. When I shared this with certain of the farmers unions in South Africa, about 3 of them, they got so excited they wanted to start it the next week. Because we got a big problem in South Africa. The farmers are under attack. You know, they're being attacked and killed on their farms because the ANC is spreading the lies. They're creating the separation that the farmers own all the land and they're sitting on the land. No, the government owns all the land in the country, and they're making people homeless, and they're making the farmers the scapegoat. So the farmers can become the heroes of the people by allowing the people to move onto the farms, building their little beautiful African huts instead of ugly square RDP houses that fall down within 6 months, and becoming part of that community, working 3 hours a week on the land while they're still doing other things until that equilibrium shifts. In return, the farmer is protected because they suddenly become the hero. They're providing a refuge for the people that are homeless. They're creating food for the people because 66% of that food is going to go to the people, the Ubuntu community. Then we've created a system called the Ubuntu warehouses, where all this food gets taken to and stored there. And if you work in any one of the Ubuntu communities, you have access to all that stuff. So you don't only have access to the maize that you grow. Because you work in the Ubuntu community project, you've got access to everything. That's how it works. You must have access to everything, not just the thing that you work on, right? And this is what we need to process as well. And this allows the people that live in a city that want to participate in the Ubuntu projects access to this, because they can't leave the city, can't leave Manhattan and go and work on some farm. So they can stay in Manhattan. They can maybe help by providing IT skills or marketing or PR or sharing information, or making a contribution of $50 a month or $10 a month towards what? Towards the petrol and the fixing of the tractors and the implements on the farms. And that's their contribution. And what do they get in return? They get food delivered to their house, to their apartment in Manhattan, because they're a member of the Ubuntu community. So there's a very elaborate and a very simple network that we've created. And the reason this came about is because of the elections. So I'm going to explain to you maybe a little bit about how that came about. Well, this brings us to the political thing and why we participated in the elections on the 7th of May. And some people are still saying that why do you bring this into the political arena? You're just playing their game now. Okay, I need to explain to you. This is a very dangerous field to be in. What we're sharing here could be seen as treason.
Yes, that's it.
Absolutely. And I could go to jail for this. But
What charge?
no, it's sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Sedition. There's another word that a lot of scientists and that have been it escapes me now. It escapes me. So in 2009, Kerry Cassidy came to visit me. And when she first found out about me, she came to see me and didn't know me from a bar of soap, and came to stay at my house. And I showed her the stone circles, and she was blown away, and Adam's calendar, and here we are. One of the things she said to me, you should start a political party, because you come from a line of revolutionaries, and I'm not going to bore you with that. And I laughed at her. I said, you're going to be kidding. A political party? That's like playing their game. I'm not going there. And then she said, it's going to be your protection. And I didn't understand it. It's called treason. That's what I was looking for. The word is treason. And that's life imprisonment. It could be Guantanamo Bay, for all you know, right? So by creating a political party, you create protection for yourself. Because as a political party, you have a manifesto. Our manifesto is to shut down the Fed and replace it with a People's Bank. It's my right as a political party to have this manifesto. So I can say virtually anything I want as a representative of the Ubuntu Party and not be charged with treason. So please understand why this has happened. And people that are ignorant are accusing me of all kinds of things, selling out. They're just not informed. There's a very important and specific reason for this. And boy, did this work for us. Because not only did we want to protect ourselves, but we also understood that we may not win the elections, we might not even get into parliament, but we're going to certainly shake the tree and inject the virus of consciousness into the system. And boy, did we do that. As you can see, this was the 4 days or 5 days of the elections when the counting stopped, when the elections stopped and the counting started, and all the political parties are there waiting for the results to come in. And they all have their tables, like we had the Ubuntu Party, and we had a pile of my books there on my table. Yeah, the Ubuntu. So if you don't know this yet, I ran for president in South Africa. There's me. That's me, standing there running for president, waiting for the elections to come in. That's what it is. Right, I'm coming there. So we had a pile of my books on the table, and the ANC, the opposition, the DA, and all the other smaller parties were there. And one by one, they'd come past our table, and they sort of walk past and look and see the books, and then come back and look at the books again. And eventually, they'd build up enough courage and say, "Are you selling those books?" Because they see the word Ubuntu, right? And they all know they're Africans. They know what this is. It's like this immediate attraction. So we said, "No, they for free for everybody here. Just take one." Really? I'd pick it up. Would you sign it for me? It's like, what? Wow, okay. So I was signing Ubuntu books for all the other opposing political parties, including the ANC, and every single party at the South African elections had at least one of the Ubuntu books on their table. At one stage, we did a walkthrough, and there was a book lying on the table for everyone else to see of their party, and there was probably one other person sitting there reading the book. So that is called injecting the virus of consciousness into the political arena. The entire South African political arena and every politician knows about the Ubuntu Party. It knows about the Ubuntu and contributionist philosophy. They have no excuse. They've been exposed to it at face value, right there. And this is what I believe we could never have achieved if we were just a liberation movement, which can very easily be discredited as a bunch of dope smokers and hippies and guys that are undermining the success of our democracy. That's what they make you look like. So realize that the political platform for this is critical in us getting somewhere much quicker. Why is this important? Because now in 2016 we're having the local municipal elections in the different towns. And I can tell you right now, from the way the Ubuntu philosophy has spread, we are definitely going to win a few small towns where the Ubuntu Party is going to win the majority. That changes everything. It has brought us into the hearts and homes of the people of a few small towns. And that could be taking us from zero to hero in one easy step. Because now the Ubuntu Party, I'll be the bloody mayor. I'll buy myself a new car. That's a joke. Sorry. Yeah, the Ubuntu Party has a website. Of course we have a website. So I just want to finish here because I want you to see how far this has gone. And then we'll take some questions. And if you have still any confusion, I'll tell you most of the information is in the book, but not all of it. So we're going to go through some questions. But you need to see what has happened here. So I explained why to get into politics. The Ubuntu Manifesto believes that the country belongs to its people, that the minerals and wealth and the energy creation belongs to its people, that the government is appointed as a servant of the people to serve the needs of the people on every level. And based on these simple principles, we plan to do the following. This is the manifesto we went into the elections with, is to restructure the entire banking system to serve the people and not to enslave the people, to create a people's bank that creates money for the people, by the people, tax-free and interest-free with 100% employment. And if you don't understand why, If we, the people, create the money, we will create 100% employment, because we'll create projects and industries wherever we need, because the people's bank will provide the bloody money for whatever we need. So it's a very important, immediate and initial step towards freeing ourselves from the enslavement of private bankers, because they can't ever do that. It's not their job. Their job is to enslave you. Right? So 100% employment, and stop the financial enslavement of our people by the privately owned reserve bank. So it's a complete onslaught on the Reserve Bank, or your version of the Federal Reserve. And then it goes, let our scientists and inventors deliver a renewable source of free energy for every South African. I mean, this is not what any other political party has even dared to say, and this is our manifesto, 8-point manifesto into the election, to support traditional healers and research scientists finding alternative cures for all disease. Here we're attacking the drug industry, telling them that we will create cures for all disease and put them out of business. This is not good, right? So for the business of the drug cartels, to support the farmers on every level, to escape the grips of Monsanto, to grow organic food and plant gardens across the nation to ensure that no South African ever goes hungry again. This is an onslaught on the monopoly of providing food and creating food scarcity. And then we go, decentralize the government. So basically the manifesto of the Ubuntu Party was, if I became president, the first thing I would do is dissolve the parliament, dissolve the government. That was our manifesto. Decentralize the government so that people can govern themselves in their own communities. That, I think, answers your question from earlier. Right? So this is all, remember, this is, imagine if some political party in the USA puts this out as a manifesto. I think a lot of people will resonate with this, but no one has ever bloody done this, as far as I know. Yeah, so, however, the Ubuntu Party is being formed in the United States as we speak. And it'll probably have a Native American name attached to it, like it's just happened in Canada. So I can tell you right now, but let me finish here. So I'm jumping the gun here. And then finally, so decentralize the government, that the people govern themselves. And finally, restructure the judiciary and the legal system to be written by the people for the people. Because the current judicial system does not support the people. And this is the message that we gave the people, but I don't have sound on this computer. So I don't know if you're going to hear this, but I'm going to try and play it. Or is it? Do we have a plug here for sound? I'll put the mic here. Oh, will it come out on the TV? Okay, cool. Just control the sound here. So this is, now I must tell you very briefly, I was on tour in Germany, Holland, France, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, right? When I realized we were going to be in the elections, and we had like a month to go before the elections. That's it. And I had to come up with the equivalent of $200,000 to pay a deposit to participate in the elections. Now, if ever, this is why I said I believe in prophecy more than any time before. I had 24 hours to find $200,000, and I found it. The next morning, my friend Sid in Johannesburg walked to the IEC's offices, the Independent Electoral Commission, the fraud company that's the front to run the elections, and he handed them a $200,000, which is 200,000 rand, equivalent to $200,000 check, so that we could participate on a national level, not a provincial, 9 provinces, provincial level. That would have been $640,000, right? So we decided to only run on a national level for Parliament, not for provincial councils. And he handed them a check, and that allowed us to be in the elections on the national ballot. And this is, so while I was in Switzerland and Germany, I had to write the commercial for TV, and because we've got free and fair elections, they allowed us 6 flightings of our TV commercial on national broadcast SABC. 6 flightings. Free and fair elections. The ANC got about 480 flightings. It's free and fair elections. This is now on the 7th of May. No, we've just been through it. And this is what we wrote. This was our television commercial. So you can imagine this sent shivers down the spine of the Reserve Bank. Yeah, it's not, the sound isn't coming out.
That box on the table is a headphone jack, and on one of the wires, try plugging that headphone jack into your computer.
This box here?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Yeah.
You entertain the people.
I'm supposed to entertain you. Just, it's just here, that one there. No, that's it. We got it.
Okay. Unit.
This is the power of Ubuntu.
This is it. So, yeah. Is that cool?
African Reserve.
Okay, sorry. Let me just, I need to come back to it. Okay.
Did you know that the South African Reserve Bank is a private company controlled from Switzerland, and that our banks create money out of thin air? Our government knows this, but they're not telling us. This is Michael Tellinger, founder of the Ubuntu Party, and I'd like to remind you that South Africa belongs to its people. It does not belong to the government or any other private corporation. The government should always be the servant of the people to deliver on the needs of the people and not enslave its people. But they've sold our roads and our minerals to private foreign companies and enslaved us in debt for life. The Ubuntu Party will create a people's bank that creates money for the people, by the people, tax-free and interest-free, to free us from economic slavery, creating huge public works in the process and 100% employment. Let us return the country to its people. Vote Ubuntu Party for a people's bank. Money for the people, by the people. Vote Ubuntu.
So we... So, thanks. We had 6 lousy flightings of that. But what I can tell you, we went into the elections with 1 million followers. 1 million signed up followers. How many votes do you think we got? 8,234. 8,234 votes. So we know clearly 8,230 votes we got. So clearly it tells us there was huge fraud going on. They destroyed. We know this from people that emailed us saying they were volunteer observers and that they destroyed thousands of our votes. Sitting in front of us at the elections was a lady from one of the other parties who was an independent observer. She told us she was an observer at the international counts where people outside of South Africa voted. And 18,000 international votes were taken. She came to me and said, I was really surprised because the Ubuntu Party got the largest number of votes from overseas voters. How many votes do you think they allocated to the Ubuntu Party out of 18,000 votes? 28. So we know there was a huge fraud going on. So what this showed us is that no matter what country you're in, this election process is completely fraudulent, completely controlled, and completely rigged. In fact, on the second day of the elections, one of the observers and connected to the ANC came to us and said, look, you're going to end up with about 8,500 votes. How did she know this? And she started telling us a whole bunch of stuff we should be doing. At that stage, I was still a bit naive. I thought, no, forget it. We got 1 million followers. We're going to get at least 4 seats in Parliament, which we should have had. But we know there was a very clear instruction from the Reserve Bank to the IEC. The Ubuntu Party will not get a sniff of Parliament because they knew if we got even 1 seat in Parliament, all hell would break loose. And you know why? I'm coming there. Hold on. Every day, all you got to do, and this is our objective, if we got even 1 seat in Parliament, all you do every day, and remember this is televised, this goes live, so they can't hide it. All you got to do is when you get up there, you say, close down the Reserve Bank, it's a privately owned company, and we got to replace it with the People's Bank to create 100% employment, create tax-free, interest-free money for the people, by the people. How long do you think it'll take that to permeate to the people of the country? A few weeks. And everybody will be talking about it. And they're going to start putting pressure on the government to do exactly what the Ubuntu Party is suggesting. And they know that we're telling them the truth. So they couldn't allow us to get into government and into Parliament. And they did a very good job. But as I said, in 2016, we got the local elections, and we're confident we're going to win at least, even if we win 1 town in South Africa, it's all over. It's done. 10 years of work has been concluded because we can then implement the contributionist philosophy. And then just show you finally what we did, some of the PR that we did. If you haven't seen this yet, it's a good feel kind of thing, running up to the elections. Oh no, sorry. Can you, okay. Everyone is talking about this beautiful African life philosophy called Ubuntu, but very few people are actually doing anything about it. This is Michael Tellinger, and I want to tell you how the Ubuntu Party will actually make this beautiful life philosophy possible for every single South African. So I would like to remind you that we, the people, appoint the government to act as our servants, to do the best for the people all the time. But our government has failed us dramatically on every level and actually turned the people into the servant of the government. And above all, our economy has been hijacked by international banksters who've been granted complete freedom to financially cripple every South African, plunging us into a life of debt. Pay attention to this. The South African Reserve Bank does not belong to the government. It does not belong to the people. It's a private company that has been given the right to issue the money for the South African people and to dictate the financial policy to the government and in turn to the people of the country. And under the protection of the South African Reserve Bank, all our banks are being given complete freedom to create money out of thin air that they then lend to unsuspecting people at compounded interest, turning all of us into debt slaves for the rest of our lives. So based on these facts, the Ubuntu Party proposes to do the following: to restructure the entire banking system to serve the people and not to enslave the people, to establish a people's bank instead of the South African Reserve Bank that creates money for the people, by the people, and in this case the money will be tax-free and interest-free with 100% employment as a result, and stop the financial enslavement. We need to support our scientists and inventors to deliver a renewable source of free or almost free energy for every South African. We need to support our traditional healers and the research scientists to go back to basics and find alternative cures for all disease to prevent the drug cartels from hiding such cures from the people, because we know that cures for diseases have been found and can be released to the people. We need to support our farmers at every level to grow organic food and move away from genetically modified organisms and get rid of giants like Monsanto who are poisoning our farms and poisoning our lands and poisoning our foods. We need to plant food gardens across the nation so that no South African ever goes hungry again. We need to decentralize the government so that people can govern themselves in their own communities, taking care of their own needs immediately, supported by the People's Bank. Because once we have a People's Bank, all the needs of the people, wherever they may live, will be provided for. And therefore, there will be no worry about job security, because jobs will be created for whatever needs to be done, supported by the People's Bank. And finally, we need to restructure the judiciary and the legal system completely, to be written by the people, for the people, unlike the unjust legal system we face in our courts today, which holds the rights of corporations above the rights of living, breathing human beings. United we stand. That's what Ubuntu is all about. For those that think that this is a pipe dream, I need to tell you that this has been done many times in the past with great success, and this is exactly what we want to recreate in South Africa, to bring this relief to the people that so desperately need it. Viva unity, viva abundance for all, viva Ubuntu. Hope to see you on the 7th of May.
So, whatever that may mean for you, what the outcome of this is that the Ubuntu movement has now grown into more than 215 countries around the world now, not just 200. There are Ubuntu parties being formed in at least 12 countries right now, including the USA. They might go under slightly different names. I know in Canada they're finding a native Canadian word that's equivalent to Ubuntu. They found it. I forget what it is now. So it's going to be the Ubuntu something party. Because of our tour through Canada, coast to coast, and meeting up with some really influential Native Canadians and First Nations people, we've got complete buy-in from them, complete resonance with this philosophy, because this is the philosophy of all the ancient people. It is the right, the privilege, the birthright of every single one of us. This is the very simple truth that resonates within each and every one of our hearts. You know this. There's no lies. There's no ego attached here. I don't have to do this. I can go away and live in a mud hut on the beach in Mozambique and be happy. I don't need to do this. So the only reason I'm doing this is because we need to create the critical mass so it can carry on and take on its own energy. And I believe we've already reached that stage. No matter what happens to me, if I get a bullet walking out of here, that's actually just going to make it worse, because it is now hugely supported. And so right now,
it is quite possible that within the next 4 to 5 years, we might find an Ubuntu party in the parliament of 20 or more countries. Like next year, the Ubuntu party is going to participate in the elections in Canada. And based on the support from the native people of Canada, they'll most likely get in. Because it's a powerful group of individuals. And I guess it may not be that easy to cheat in Canada, but who knows, I might be naive. So, same's happening in Germany, in the USA, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, Austria. In Austria, the Ubuntu Party is being started by Professor Franz Hormann, one of the leading economists at the Vienna Institute of Economics. So it's just phenomenal what's happening here. And it's completely out of control. 2 years ago, not in my wildest dreams could I have predicted this. It's an energy and a force that's taken its own life source and it's running away with itself. And that's really what needs to happen here. Yes, sir. What you can do is join the Ubuntu movement on our website so that we have you on the database. And whatever little town you're in, or city you're in, or suburb you're in, like Canada has now gone crazy with it, start an Ubuntu Facebook page. So it's Ubuntu, could be Ubuntu, Joshua Tree, Ubuntu Joshua Tree, Ubuntu Venice, Los Angeles, Ubuntu Beverly Hills, Ubuntu Salt Lake City, Ubuntu whatever. And create a Facebook page where you are. That'll immediately start to attract all the others around you to your Facebook page and start to grow that community very, very quickly. And allow us from South Africa, from Waterval-Boven, to start communicating with you and your Facebook page, and then load you onto the new Ubuntu Planet website as soon as that's completed, within days or within weeks, so that we can communicate with a global Ubuntu community with a click of a button and share information. And this is going to start growing so quickly, as you can see. It's got its own energy now. So if you resonate with this, that's all you got to do. Start an Ubuntu Facebook page. That's probably the first and easiest thing you can do. And expand this thing and share the information. Download stuff from the website, from the Ubuntu website. Post it. There are lots of these little videos that you can put out to help motivate people, make them realize this is a lot bigger than they may think. And give them confidence, because people need confidence. They need to believe that there is a way out. Because as you know, the greater population don't know. They're so brainwashed, like Morpheus says, that they are actually still prepared to protect the system and fight to protect it. But everybody knows that something is wrong, and they don't know that there's a way out. So this is not my system. It belongs to the people. And it's how the people morph this for their own benefit and their own community is up to you. It's what you do with this. It's always about the people, not about you. The moment you put yourself first, you're going to be brought down. Yes?
Hi. I want to start a movement in Joshua Tree. I'm an activist and artist here.
Awesome.
But have you heard of the transition movement? Because we're very involved in a worldwide program called Transition.
No, I haven't. No. I haven't heard. So align the transition movement with us, and we got to start uniting things. We work very closely with the new Earth Nations group that's Sasha Stone that works from London and also from Bali. And New Earth Nation is a huge global community. They're doing incredible work, but it's slightly different to what we're doing. They've been acquiring and being gifted land. The amount of land that New Earth Nation has got is larger than the whole state of bloody Belgium. That's how much land they've already been given by people who want to share this. There are many millionaires and possibly some billionaires who got so much money, but they know how corrupt the system is. They want to invest their money for the good of humanity, but they know that most of the charities are controlled by the bankers, and they don't want to put their money there because they're smarter than that. So they're looking for new areas to help develop and put their money into, because they know it's really going to help humanity. So hopefully you're going to start finding us so we can use the money to free ourselves from the money. That's what it's going to take. Yes, sir.
I believe the key to all of this is to have a trustless system.
Yeah.
Whenever you give trust to someone else, you're always at risk of that person being corrupt. So the technology exists today, and I keep saying that word. I know it's an ugly word, but I think before you can go forward, you may have to go sideways. I see the vision. I don't see the road yet because it hasn't been built, but I see the possibility.
That's all you need to do, as long as you know it's possible. And there'll be many roads that lead to this. There isn't just one road. And there'll be completely unexpected set of circumstances and events that'll happen after today that we can't predict.
The only thing I ask of you is that you research 2 projects. Both are open source. They've been going on for years. They're about to launch this year. One of them is called Ethereum, and the other one is called MadeSafe. One originates out of Zug, Switzerland, and the other one originates out of Ireland.
What was the second one?
MadeSafe.
So it's
MadeSafe is a decentralized internet. No central server, no corporation, no individual control.
awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So it's MadeSafe and
MadeSafe.org.
MadeSafe.org.
One is Ethereum.org.
Ethereum.
Ethereum is a decentralized autonomous corporation. Open source. You, as the leader of this movement, designate all the laws of the movement. Put it out there into the ether. No one can ever change it.
Yeah.
Not one central computer is involved. Anyone with a cell phone will have a shard of that software running on it.
Awesome.
It's not corruptible.
And it's not.
I saw your website. Go see it's on the
It's on a blog.
Purpose web.
Yeah. We know until we still don't really have an IT person. We've been doing this ourselves. We've been doing.
It's on the web. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's part of the the NSA surveillance system. I was getting Victoria's phone calls and texts before I got here. The prison system was a misfire.
Yeah. Yeah, look, this is why, I've given up on trying to hide. This is it. I can't hide. If they want to spy on me, they want to find me. Okay, you may not know this. You can't hide from these guys. They got technology we don't even understand. Do you realize that once they have the resonant frequency of your DNA, they'll find you anywhere you are? You don't need a cell phone. Forget it. That's all. Once they know what your DNA frequency is, that's it. You're on the system, they track you anyway. And they gave this technology away in an article about saving nature, right? And this is how stupid they think we are. So they published this article about, they discovered previously unknown species in the thickest parts of the Amazon jungle. From satellite, they found new species and they were able to map their DNA frequency. And I went, you've just told us that you can track my DNA from satellite. Thanks very much. So, yes.
So, what are your thoughts about the universal basic income, also called the guaranteed income, citizens' income, where the government would provide a check to every citizen monthly that would cover rent and food, water?
It's just a enslavement system. It's a slavery system. Anything to do with money, okay? Just, please, the moment you hear the word money or someone paying you something, just run for the hills immediately. Just shut it down. Don't allow it into your reality.
Money is just a technology, right?
No, it's not a technology. Yeah, no, you're starting a very long debate. I've been through this hundreds of thousands of times. I'm not kidding you. I can tell you right now, don't go down that rabbit hole. 2 years or 1 year or 10 years down the road, you're going to come out of it realizing what I've realized.
Protecting yourself from money. Because I like this gentleman over here, I think the vision of Ubuntu, a lot of people in this room would share. I think there has been attempts. There's been people that made political parties. I mean, go on all that deep. But I am really interested. I think you're a smart guy. How do you envision Ubuntu protecting itself since it claims to want to use money to enable it to take this down? What are then the practices within Ubuntu that are going to protect itself from the mind control and power politics and masculinist behavior that's a consequence of having a relationship with a monetary currency?
I don't have an answer for you on that. We're going to have to do everything and anything to protect ourselves and protect the philosophy and protect the truth that resonates within our hearts. And this is why I put so much emphasis on the first Ubuntu community that gets set up. Because once that first community is up and running and is strong enough to keep itself running, there is no way of stopping this. It's not possible to stop unless they send, the National Guard there. with guns and shut the whole town down. That's the only way they control it. But I think the consciousness is rising among the soldiers as well. Consciousness is affecting the bankers. That's why they're being thrown out of buildings, because bankers are starting to spill the beans, and that's not good for the business. That's why we're seeing such high banker suicide. The bankers aren't killing themselves, they're being murdered, because they know that they become dangerous, so they get rid of these guys. And that's going to start happening among the soldiers. It's happened already. The whistleblowers in the military, everywhere. It's happening faster and faster and faster. It is an acceleration of it. So that becomes in many ways our protection. The moment you get some serious general from the US Navy or Army come out and say, listen, I'm tired of this BS, I'm going to tell you how it works, you know, they're going to try and smear him and make him an idiot. But I think more and more people are going to start believing these whistleblowers, and it's happening on a rapid rate. So how to protect ourselves, I don't know. Yes.
Spiritual practices.
Oh, yeah.
That, you know, that these spiritual and address energetic capacities. And I wonder if it's just being shy discussing that.
No, not at all. I just, you know, I don't want to go too deep. I've made it very clear we need a council of elders. So let me tell you what we're doing about the council of elders.
I'm talking about literally a practice to evade the power of money.
Yeah, and so you start dealing with shamanic principles and possibly some ceremony and so forth. And that's happening. It is happening. But what we're doing, for example, and this can be applied in the USA and in Canada, because you got native land here. Right? Now, the reservations are perfect for setting this up, because the reservations have a different set of laws. And in Canada, yeah, far more sovereign. So you can do stuff and work with the Native Americans to set this up, and you'll be a lot safer than creating it in, you know, Washington State or near Washington, D.C. So start thinking about that. In South Africa, we have about 200 tribal chiefs. Many of them have been bribed, and they've handed their land to the government for a new BMW and a new house, and they've sold out. But there are still many who are holding on to their tribal land. All we need is one chief, and we've already been approached by, I believe it's three groups that represent tribal chiefs to start working with us, because they've heard about what we're doing. So it's just gone much bigger than, you know, I've been able to communicate here. And once we've got one tribal chiefdom that adopts this, because what I'm going to go, when I finish this tour in the middle of September, when we get home, one of the first things we're doing is meeting with some of these tribal chiefs and the traditional healers in the same meeting, because often the traditional healers play a very important role in these chiefdoms, because they're sangomas and medicine men and shaman and so forth, right? And the traditional tribal chiefs respect and honor these guys. So we're going to bring together, I'm going to do a presentation to them, which we have requested, telling them we have an alternative source of electricity. Because what's happened is, let me backtrack, many of these chiefdoms have lost all their people. They've got hardly anyone to be chiefs over, because they've gone to the cities in search of jobs. Once they leave, they get stuck there. They're in a prison. They can't get out, because they've got nothing to come back to. But they want to come back. They hate being trapped in the city. What we're going to provide these chiefs is with a beautiful opportunity to attract all the people that they've lost back to the beautiful countryside, to the rivers, the mountains, the beaches, where the people would much prefer to live than being stuck as slaves in the bloody high-rise cities. So the offer we're going to make these chiefs is say, we can turn your chiefdom into bloody paradise. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to provide an alternative source of electricity, and you use that source to lure the people back, to say, come back to your home, come back to your home country, your homeland. You'll have free electricity, and you'll participate in several community projects that we're going to set up with that electricity, so we can run those community projects, because you need electricity for them. And in return of working in the community projects, you're going to get free uncapped electricity, and you can then have a beautiful life, because you'll have everything you need. And these chiefs have responded very, very positively to this message. So I'm looking forward to having these few meetings. The same can happen with the chiefs in the Native Canadian, Native American tribal land, and so forth. So just some ideas as to how this can be implemented, because it might be a lot easier to do it that way than to try and do it on a private farm. And the other thing is, don't go and buy a piece of land and start from scratch. That's not a solution, because you basically, towns and villages already have the infrastructure. They got the homes, the warehouses, the roads, the piping, everything. Everything is there. All you need to do is shift the people's perception and let them.
What are your 3 favorite energy energy devices right now?
My most favorite energy device is the boiling water with sound. That's because I know it exists. So it's not speculative, not we're still waiting for it, or weird magnetic energies or perpetual motion devices. I know it's there, but I have not yet seen one running. I've seen the water boiling with sound. And therefore, I believe that is probably, and I trust it's probably going to be the next step in our elevating the consciousness of the global community, because it's not a huge leap, right? If we can boil water with sound, it's a small step to the next level of understanding new technology and so forth, because we can continue using the existing power plants to boil the water to create the steam to give us the electricity, and stop burning the coal, and stop using nuclear fusion to create nuclear power plants. I mean, they tell you nuclear power plants are advanced technology. Advanced technology to boil water? It's like, are you insane? We can boil water with sound. We don't have to create a potential nuclear disaster. So the coal and the nuclear power plants will be eliminated immediately. And I can tell you, you know this. The moment people know that you can boil water with sound and that you can get those devices, the game's up. It's finished. It's over. You're not going to be able to put a lid on this, because somebody somewhere, millions of scientists and little engineers in their little factories will be making these little devices. And you're not going to be able to stop this, because no one's going to patent it and try and make trillions of dollars out of it. You make the sound with a sound generator, and the sound generator is powered by a solar panel and a battery. So you don't need electricity. Yeah. And it probably will feed back on itself, because today I'm supposed to speak to Christian Lange in Germany after this, who wanted to give me an update on his perpetual motion sound device that he created. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. But I love that sound boiling with water, the Peter Davy device. Yes, sir.
What happens if paper money collapses before?
I don't know. I said a few scenes in my book. So what I'm saying is that be prepared for that, because it may just happen. Make sure you've got a way out of if you live in a high-rise city, make sure you've got a way out of there. As soon as you start smelling that rat, that money is collapsing, get all your ass out of the high-rise environment. You don't want to be there. Really. It's pretty much just get out of there. You know, if you know how to survive, and this is, can I tell you the irony of this? The irony of this is that third world countries, the poorest of the people on planet Earth, who live off the grid, who don't have electricity, who still find fire or wood to make a fire, they will survive the crash. They won't even know there's chaos going on in New York. They'll carry on living happily. And when New York and London and Tokyo have blown up, there's nothing left, everyone's dead, these people will still be living merrily in their jungles, not knowing that those places have blown up. They are the fortunate ones. We're the ones that are ignorant, being led down the bloody trap. So we can start to understand this. Get out of the city. Find yourself a nice little cottage somewhere near the river or near a stream so you got fresh water. Make sure you got some bloody seeds or pot plants that you can chuck in your car and get the hell out of there, and go and make sure you know how to grow food very quickly, or how the things that grow really quickly, like these. Well, you know what I'm talking about. You smart people. Yeah. Who else? Sorry, you. Yeah.
It's the most corrupt system on the planet. But even here in this room, where you've got open-minded people, there's a ton of resistance to everything you're talking about.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about what you said yesterday about Paul Krevenstein?
Paul Krevenstein, yeah.
Find any information on
you won't find any information about him whatsoever.
To me, the missing link is connecting with that Olympic field that takes away the fear. Sometimes just looking at a thing.
Yeah.
And we talk about resonance with an idea. And here I'm feeling all this resistance. I'm on board. Sign me up.
You're not feeling resistance. You're feeling fear.
Well,
that's what you're feeling.
So, what can we do to help support this man who has discovered a device that can see this grid? The best thing that I took away yesterday was when you were getting ramped up and saying, there's a fucking grid up there and you have no idea what, and my takeaway was, the fucking grid's coming down.
Yeah.
All I've heard is about this grid, and you
Yeah.
actually articulated what it was and how mechanically it was possibly in place.
Yeah.
So what can we do to help just take away that level of disconnect to the universe that makes all of this seem easier?
Wow, that's a heavy question. The first thing you said, your first few words that came out of your mouth was fear. So I want to come back to that. And there may be resistance, and there's some people here that completely resonate with it. There's some people that don't quite get it, and some people that just go, "Whoa, I don't get this. I don't know how you're going to get there." And I've got 5 minutes left. So what I can tell you is that I know this. I've seen this over a 10-year period. Fear is the most immediate response that people get when you start talking about this. And I know this.
Take my money, but they just opened a Tesla shop down the road from my house. You're South African Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Came in, put his own money up, and he's got an electric car. I don't ever want to buy petrol again, but that's $100,000 car.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
Well, it's an easy problem. I'll just get one of those things, and I'll do whatever it takes. Take the money away. I'm easy with it. But
Yeah.
I want to know how to reconcile that, and I think I'm going to go get on your website. I'll start a group.
You know what? I don't have all the answers. I wish I had all the answers. I know that we're going to get there. I know that this is the only way out. I've looked at so many other things, and I find obvious holes, and in the other things, because they always. It's not, like I said, this is not my system. I've sucked it. I sucked this somewhere out of the ether, and it seems to be the way things work. And there've been some interesting channelings. In case you want to, I got a channeling a few years ago about this, and it blew my mind. This character called Adamu. I don't know if any one of you know about Adamu. That channels lots of really amazing information, and he spoke about the insanity of thinking that we're going to have disclosure by UFO landing on the lawns of the White House. It just goes into great detail about that's an insane thought, and explains why that will never happen. And then he goes into the three different systems that exist in the universe and the multiverse as the three different systems of existence. One of them is the system that we find ourselves here, the hierarchical corporate structures and control through money. Then there's a service to others, that's a service to self, and that's warring, control, conflict, competition, cooperation. The next is like service to others, which is like, is described often as Mother Teresa. She spends her whole life taking care of other people. That's also no good. And then this individual describes, and he used the word contributionism. I nearly fell on my back. It's like, and he described that as the universal law of nature that is evolved by which most advanced species exist. And I've just shared that with you. So I know it's not my thing. I somehow picked up on that resonance, and I've slowly, over a 10-year period, been figuring it out for myself, step by step. Because I can tell you, when I first sniffed this rag in 2005, I got so excited, I just wanted to run out and tell everyone. I walked into a bloody barrage of bullets. The first time I went out, I was invited by a senior executive of Absa Bank, which is Barclays PLC in South Africa. And she invited me to a dinner of 12 people at her house. She thought this was a great idea. Come and explain to all these people about a world without money. I nearly got beaten up. I'm not kidding you. The macho guys, they wanted to beat me up because they felt threatened. They felt fear. They knew somewhere in there resonated a very powerful idea, but it scared them shitless. And they wanted to just instantly go into Lager mentality and protect everything they got. And the first thing that they threw at me is, how dare you suggest you're going to take everything away from me that I've worked so hard for all my life? That was their first response.
And yet in 08, it all went away anyway.
Yeah. And what I can tell you, I'll tell you the fascinating thing that I've learned from this 10-year journey is that the richest people are not the problem. The poorest people are not the problem. Because the richest people that get all the money, they've seen the scam. They know that money is worthless and tomorrow it can all be gone. So they want to actually get out of that. They know that everyone's after their money. All they want to do is protect their money, and they're tired of protecting their money. They want to live a beautiful life. So they realize they need out of that system. The poorest people just have nothing to lose. They want any system that will get them out of their misery. It's the people in the middle. It's that large middle class. Why do you think... I have 0 minutes left. Why do you think The objective of the global governments is to create a huge middle class, because therein lies your trap. The people that have just been elevated out of poverty, we think, I finally arrived. I got a new car, got a great job, I've made it. And now next year I'm going to get a promotion. That's the problem. Those are the guys that are most fearful of losing what they've just attained. So just keep that in mind. Speak to the rich people, speak to the poorest of the people. You'll see it's an easy discussion. The moment you start talking to that middle ground, it gets very interesting. So we got to finish here, and I'm sorry, because they're going to get angry with me. So there's a lot of stuff here. This is a huge debate. This is the debate we should all be having every day and finding solutions. You all have solutions. I don't have all the solutions. You're going to find a lot more solutions that I've shared with you here today as you talk through this with your friends. So all I want to ask you to end off here with today is don't be afraid. We've got nothing to fear than fear itself. It's a cop-out, but it's true. Okay? It's the fear that has kept us in this bloody trap for so long. So what if you lose everything? Yeah. Yeah. So guys, we're going to stimulate debate. I'm going to finish here. So I want to thank you for being here.